Vote for America 2024. The South Carolina presidential primary.
And good evening. Welcome to Newsmax's special coverage of the South Carolina Republican primary. Great to see you all. Hi, everybody. I'm Bianca De La Garza.
I'm Rob Finnerty. Good to be with you. Voting in South Carolina ends at 7 o'clock Eastern time tonight, so just about an hour to go. Results are expected to start coming in not long after that, and we'll bring you everything you need to know over the next several hours. All the results, all the analysis, and all of the speeches as they happen.
So sit back, relax, and spend Saturday night with us as we have you covered. Of course, the race is narrowed down to former President Donald Trump and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley. The Palmetto State, as you may know, has 50 delegates at stake this evening. And some saying this truly is Haley's last chance to possibly slow Donald Trump, though all the polls looks like he is marching towards the GOP nomination. If Haley was to win any state, many say, Rob, it should be her home state of South Carolina.
Everything is set up for her in her home state, a two-term governor. This is the state where Nikki Haley was elected twice, both in 2010 and 2014. Tonight, a loss for Nikki Haley in South Carolina would be absolutely devastating for her campaign, but she has vowed to stay in the race no matter what happens tonight.
Well, we will see what happens. Our team of reporters is out there covering every angle for you. We're at all the campaign headquarters. We want to begin at the Nikki Haley campaign headquarters. She will be speaking in Charleston, South Carolina, and that's where we find our national correspondent, Mike Carter. Mike, welcoming. Good to see you.
Hey, good to be with you guys. Yeah, less than an hour to go until polls close here in the Palmetto State. Want to read you a quote here. This is from Nikki Haley back from her memoir in 2012. Politics in South Carolina has a sad reputation as a blood sport. Well, that's what the former governor of this state had to say about politics here a decade ago. A lot of folks believe she's about to find out firsthand what that means tonight. Most polls show Nikki Haley trailing Donald Trump anywhere from 30 to 35 points coming into Election Day. But Haley says her campaign will not end here tonight no matter what happens, even if what we all expect to see happen does happen, and that's a strong Trump victory. Nikki Haley headed to the polls today to get a last-minute upfront with voters. And to help get out the vote here in South Carolina, a Haley super PAC is targeting left-leaning voters with flyers sent by mail to voters who did not participate in South Carolina's February 3rd Democratic primary. Remember, South Carolina allows Republicans, Democrats, and independents to participate in either primary of their choosing, but they can only vote in one. So the Haley camp is hoping most of those voters, maybe some Democrats, moderate voters who didn't vote for Joe Biden back on February 3rd. Remember, only 4% of the total electorate here in South Carolina voted in that Democrat primary. They're hoping some of those voters may have saved their vote to vote against Donald Trump tonight.
I refuse to quit. South Carolina will vote on Saturday, but on Sunday, I'll still be running for president. I'm not going anywhere. Dropping out would be the easy route. I've never taken the easy route. I've been the underdog in every race I've ever run. I've always been David taking on Goliath.
And self-identified Republicans make up about 70% of the electorate here in South Carolina. That is a part of the electorate that Donald Trump has done very well for himself in both Iowa and New Hampshire. So Haley really needing to attract those moderate Democrat voters. Will they come out for her enough for it to even matter tonight? Polls coming into tonight show it will not. Back to you guys.
All right, Mike Carter starting us off. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. Let's check in with John Huddy. He is in Columbia, South Carolina, the capital of the Palmetto State. Let's check in with Newsmax senior correspondent John Huddy. John, good evening.
Yeah. Rob and Bianca, good evening to you. And as Mike was talking about, Nikki Haley really needs, at this point, a record turnout of moderates and independents. That was her game plan, as you recall, back in New Hampshire, when she was really pushing to try to get that moderate and independent vote, which she did in many of the counties, but she still, as you recall, lost by 12 percentage points there. So tonight, the expectation is that Donald Trump will win. He will have a victory here in South Carolina, Nikki Haley's home state. The question is by how wide a margin. margin? Are we going to see a double-digit win? If you listen to and you trust some of the polls, one of the latest polls from Winthrop University, which is, by the way, Winthrop Coliseum is where Donald Trump held a rally yesterday. Several thousand people were there. But that poll had him up by 36 percentage points. So, you know, Nikki Haley really needs to get those independent, moderate voters. She's also, her campaign, by the way, Ron Bianco, have also been trying to urge Democrats to go out and vote for her in a vote against Donald Trump to try to close the gap. Whether that happens tonight remains to be seen. But Donald Trump, as we know today, spoke at CPAC. He said basically he described himself as a political dissident, saying a vote for him is really the best ticket back to freedom. He said in a passport, his words, out of tyranny, and really warned about another Biden administration. Listen in part to what he said.
4 years ago, I told you that if crooked Joe Biden got to the White House, our borders would be abolished, our middle class would be decimated, and our communities would be plagued by bloodshed, chaos, and violent crime. We were right about everything. If crooked Joe Biden and his thugs win in 2024, the worst is yet to come.
So obviously that's a play on the best is yet to come, which has been one of the themes of his early campaign messages and advertisements. Speaking of which, Nikki Haley has really increased her television ad and radio campaign here in South Carolina. Last night, though, in Rock Hill for his rally, as I mentioned, at the Winthrop Coliseum, Winthrop University, Trump made mention of Alabama's IVF ruling, saying that he supports in vitro fertilization and that the Alabama legislature should make IVF available in the state. So perhaps he'll talk about that once again here, along with some of the other issues he's talked about, including the crisis at America's southern border. Guys, back to you.
All right, John Huddy live at Trump headquarters, and Mike Carter again at Haley. We'll be checking back with both of them throughout the evening during our coverage. Again, polls close at 7 o'clock. John, thank you. Let's bring in our political panel now. Mark Halperin, senior political analyst and former Republican senator from Pennsylvania, former presidential candidate Rick Santorum. Welcome in. Great to have you both with us this evening.
Thank you.
Good evening.
I just am curious, Senator Santorum, how Nikki Haley's going to come out and spin this, because she's kind of getting used to being in this position where she doesn't win but comes out and still kind of makes it somewhat of not a loss. Any thoughts on how she will come out? And does it depend on how bad she loses in her home state?
I mean, if Nikki Haley loses by 35 points, it's hard to spin this any other way but disastrous. On the other hand, if by some miracle that she's been able to motivate Democrats and independents to come out and vote in heavy numbers in South Carolina, and she can keep it, you know, at I would use the term New Hampshire level loss. You could say, you know, well, I was 30 down and I came back, and we have some momentum. So, the margin does matter, but it doesn't matter from the standpoint of whether she's going to get the nomination or not. But it matters whether she can make a plausible case, whether she can continue on, and she's made it very clear she wants to continue on at least through Super Tuesday. Most candidates continue on until, number one, they run out of money, or number two, the math doesn't work. In other words, there's just not enough delegates available for you to win, even if you won to win the race. And that will happen either now or on Super Tuesday.
Yeah, that's such a good point. She has sort of positioned herself, Clinton-esque, the comeback kid, Mark, but I think at some point you have to come back and win one of these states. Bill Clinton certainly did it in 1992, and it carried him all the way to the White House. But I want to talk about voter turnout. We're hearing that a lot of people have turned out in South Carolina to vote today. Mark, to you, does a higher number favor a particular candidate?
Probably favors Donald Trump, but it doesn't matter because he's almost certainly going to win this primary easily either way. I think because he's likely to win, he likes the talking points. New Hampshire got more votes than anybody had ever gotten. And I think clearly if Donald Trump is the nominee, one of the great advantages he has over Joe Biden is he leads a movement. The early exit polls suggest people voting for Trump tonight voted for Trump. A lot of the people who voted for Governor Haley voted against Donald Trump. He inspires passions on both sides, but he wants to show people that he can turn people out, even in contests that don't matter much. And of course, if Haley does drop out or if she's further marginalized after tonight, he's going to be on the ballot in a lot of states, and territories where there is no effective contest, and he's going to want to not have disappointing turnouts there.
Well, she will be speaking in Charleston. Coming up, we have Nancy Mace. That's her congressional district. As you know, there's 7 congressional districts in South Carolina. So if she does happen to score a victory in some of them, she could pick up some delegates tonight. Some of the early exit polls, Senator Santorum, are saying that the voters in South Carolina, very pro-life, would support an abortion ban, a federal one. She made some news this week with IVF, which has now sparked a fiery debate over whether or not embryos are babies and if there's wrongful death lawsuits and if in vitro should be halted. Trump kind of came out on the other hand and says we need to protect that. How much of a factor do you think that storyline played into voters' minds, particularly today in South Carolina, if that's true of the exit polls?
Yeah, I think that this is sort of a confusing issue. I think the left media has deliberately made this a confusing issue. I think to most people, I don't know of anybody, Republican or Democrat, who's calling for, or court that's calling for the end of in vitro fertilization. I'm a Catholic. The Catholic Church doesn't support in vitro fertilization. So if there was anybody in the country politically that would be calling for the end of in vitro fertilization, it'd probably be me, and I'm not. So this is a created issue of the left. No one's in vitro fertilization is not in jeopardy. What may be in jeopardy is the fact that in the United States, there are 500,000 embryos frozen in this country. Compare that to Germany, where they allow in vitro fertilization, but they put some limitations on it in the sense that you just can't go out and have 10 fertilized eggs. There are only 70, from what the reports are, in the whole country of Germany. There are ethical ways of doing everything, and so this is an industry that's never been regulated, and so that's really the question here. It's not whether it's going to happen or not; it's whether there should be some ethical regulation of the industry.
Mark, South Carolina, bigger state than we've seen. Nevada, certainly New Hampshire, Iowa, small states, at least by population. South Carolina, the 23rd biggest state in the country. The governor had some funny comments a day ago. Governor Henry McMaster, Republican. He said, "I'm voting for Donald Trump, but I'm not voting against Nikki Haley," which is towing the line, if you ask me. How concerned? South Carolina is one of these interesting states where Democrats, independents, it's an open primary. They can vote as long as they didn't already vote in the Democratic primary. How concerned should the Trump campaign be tonight as we start to get returns about those crossover Democrats who might go out and vote for Nikki Haley today with no intentions of voting for a Republican in November?
About as concerned as I'd be that Senator Santorum would be rude to me, which is to say not at all, because the margin's going to be big enough. Look, you can make a case for Nikki Haley on paper, but New Hampshire, because there is not just an open primary, but a tradition of independents voting in that primary, and South Carolina, her home state, literally her 2 best states. And so part of the theory of her case has been 2 of the first 4 states are great states for Nikki Haley. Again, probably her 2 best. And we saw the result in New Hampshire. She came in second, but a distant second. She'll be second again tonight. But as I've said to you before, Rob, and I think I've said it to Bianca too, I'm no math genius, but you have to win primaries and caucuses to be the nominee. You can't just keep coming in second. And so if she can remake the electorate and get closer, great. But it didn't get her a first in New Hampshire, and it's not almost certainly going to get her a first tonight. These other states with open primaries, same thing. They don't have the culture New Hampshire does of large numbers of independents coming into the primary.
Yeah, she's had a primary problem. We'll see if that continues this evening. Again, about 40 minutes away from the polls closing down there in South Carolina. They close at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Mark Halperin, Senator Santorum, great to see you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We'll be checking back in with you. And, of course, stay with us. Much more ahead. Our coverage of the South Carolina GOP presidential primary continues. Much more. Also, Nikki Haley responding to some comments Trump made last night about black voters. We have the back and forth from both campaigns. That's next.
Good evening. Welcome back. Big night. Welcome back into our special coverage of the South Carolina Republican primary. We're voting still underway right now, again, for another 45 minutes or so. Voting ends at 7 o'clock in South Carolina. 50 delegates are on the line. For more, we go to CPAC and check in with Newsmax host Jen Pellegrino, who's there at one of the watch parties tonight. Jen, good to see you. What's going on?
Hey, Jen.
Hey, Rob. Hey, Bianca. Great to be with you guys. This room is filling up. Don't believe any of what the legacy media is telling you that people aren't at CPAC. the crowd has been insane here this weekend. I've been to a lot of CPACs, and I'm seeing a lot of optimism among people that have been through a lot over the past few years with Joe Biden as president. I'm here with Brad. Brad's a student, and I understand you're a Trump supporter, Brad.
Indeed. I think that Trump really unites the movement. Right? So you have people who are supporting a bunch of other candidates, not many. And what they don't realize is that in order to win against the Democrats, in order to win against the opposition, what we need to do is unite behind one person. So really, if for no other reason, you should support Trump because it's a practical thing to do. It's a realistic thing.
What was your favorite part of his speech today?
My favorite part of his speech is that I like how organic it was. So usually a lot of other people go on the teleprompter, and everyone says this, that Trump goes off the script, but he told some stories. He told some stories that I thought were valuable. He said things that are more valuable than just the generic stuff that his speechwriter writes.
So as a young person, biggest issue going into 2024 election?
You know, for me, the biggest issue is culture. A lot of other people, the biggest issue for them is some sort of economic policy or something more practical. But I suppose that I think that culture is very important because it informs how a nation conducts itself. It informs a lot about a country. If you have social cohesion, then you can do a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Brad, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Again, massive crowd here at CPAC. This party is getting packed. We're excited to see, obviously, how things play out in South Carolina. But again, big issues that we heard from President Trump, immigration, obviously the economy, and a whole lot more on people's minds tonight, especially down in South Carolina, as they head back to the polls. Rob and Bianca.
Jen Pellegrino at that watch party at the hopping CPAC. Thank you. And you know what, Rob? Donald Trump won the CPAC straw poll 94%. Nikki Haley 5%. And interesting, a tie for Vice President Vivek Ramaswamy and Kristi Noem.
Isn't that interesting? And Donald Trump, he will stir that for as long as possible. And that's smart politically if he is, in fact, the nominee. But just thinking about the scene there down at CPAC, Jen nailed it. I saw something on Politico today that was like, you know, CPAC's not popular anymore. And the story behind Jen Pellegrino right there tells a different story. Joining us now for more from Trump headquarters in South Carolina is South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Great to see you, Congresswoman. How are you?
Yes, it's good to see you tonight as well.
Take us through what you're seeing there on the ground and just your reaction to that CPAC straw poll. Very good news if you're a Trump supporter.
It's going to be another historic night in a Republican primary in the state of South Carolina. What I'm hearing today on the ground in every single county across the state is massive record turnout. And so I believe this race is going to be called early in the night. It's going to be called very quickly, and it's going to be called for Donald Trump. He's going to be the presumptive nominee very shortly.
Nikki Haley has said she will stay in until every last vote is counted. She will not kiss the ring. Those were some of her comments earlier in the week. You know, some say it's her home state. Let her get through today. At what point do you think she needs to bow out? Does she stay through Super Tuesday, or at some point, you know, some say the unity in this party really needs to happen sooner rather than later in light of some of the legal issues and the recent rulings we've seen against former President Trump, Congresswoman?
Well, I believe it'll be very clear tonight that Donald Trump is going to be our nominee. He is going to win every state. He's going to win every state historically. And I hope that she will finally concede tonight, because the last thing we need to do is to continue to take shots at our Republican nominee. We need to aim our fire at Joe Biden and his White House and everything that they have done to destroy our country over the last 3 years. We need to focus on the White House and winning it back. And that's what I hope that we get to starting tomorrow morning.
Looks like a general election behind you, the scene behind you there. It doesn't look like a primary. It looks like we're already at the general election, just with the flags and the number of people that are there. And again, we're 45 minutes away from polls closing down there in South Carolina. Congresswoman, take a listen. President Trump getting some criticism for a comment that he made just recently. Let's listen.
She comes over to see me at Mar-a-Lago. Sir, I will never run against you. She brought her husband. Where's her husband? Oh, he's away. He's away. What happened to her husband? What happened to her husband? Where is he? He's gone.
All right, in response, Nikki Haley had this to say about her husband, Michael Haley, who's serving a one-year deployment overseas in the South Carolina National Guard. Listen.
As I prepare for what lies ahead, Michael is at the forefront of my mind. I wish Michael was here today, and I wish our children and I could see him tonight, but we can't.
Brought Nikki Haley to tears, as you can see there. What was your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, I want to say any man or woman in uniform who's serving our country here and abroad, I just want to say thank you. The second thing that I want to say tonight is that I don't know another man who cares about our military and our veterans more than Donald Trump. He loves our military. When he was president, he didn't have and did not support endless wars that put our military at risk. He didn't pay billions of dollars to countries that use that money for terrorism, putting, again, our military at risk. And so I just want to say that Donald Trump supports our military, supports our veterans, as he always has.
Congresswoman Nancy Mace live for us with reaction this evening. And obviously, we appreciate it, and we'll be checking back in to set the scene as we are still waiting for polls to close. 35 minutes until they are officially closed in South Carolina. Thank you, Congresswoman Mace. And I believe we're going back to Jen Pellegrino, who's at a watch party right now at the CPAC convention, National Harbor. She's standing by, I believe, with Mercedes Schlapp. All right, we're going to get back to them in just a moment. They're probably out there kind of...
They're watching us. I saw on the big monitors that we're on.
Well, they should be.
That's a great party.
This is where it's happening.
That's a great party. Look, we're going to come back. We're going to keep everything rolling along here for you. Polls are still open. As soon as we get results, we're expecting to have a result pretty shortly after that. So not far to go, maybe within the next hour. So keep it here. Our coverage of the South Carolina presidential primary continues after the break. Stay with us.
Saturday night, welcome back in, everybody. I'm Bianca Della Garza alongside Rob Finnerty, and we have full coverage for you this evening of the South Carolina Republican primary. In fact, let's head back now. Jen Pellegrino, Mercedes Schlapp joining us live right now at the watch party at CPAC, where Donald Trump gave a very emotional and rousing speech earlier today. Jen.
Yes, that's right, Bianca. Hey, Rob, glad to be back with you guys. This room is just filling up. I'm here with Mercedes Schlapp, who got a lot of shout-outs today during that speech. And we were just talking about how Trump was going off script, which is something we see him do from time to time, but not like he did today here at CPAC. The crowd was in stitches. Tell us about your reaction and just the crowd's reaction being in that room, hearing him like that today.
Apparently, if he loses South Carolina, I'm to blame for him coming to CPAC. But I know he's going to win, and he's going to win big. I got to tell you, and you were there. You got to see it firsthand. It was an epic speech. That is where President Trump feels like he is at home. It's like you're sitting across the dinner table having an intimate conversation with Donald Trump, where he's talking about all these great stories, but with a very important message that we have to stop Joe Biden, that the Republican Party needs to unite, that we cannot go down this dark path, that we have to ensure that we build a strong America, which President Trump did once and will do again.
Mercy, I was telling the crowd here, I've been to a lot of CPACs. I've seen the energy. It's different this year, even more optimistic, I would say, than the last couple of years under, obviously, Joe Biden. People are really excited about Donald Trump, and there's a lot of people here at CPAC, contrary to what the legacy media wants folks to believe.
There was this reporter from NBC News who literally, I think, showed up very, very early before folks were even getting through the door and says, oh, CPAC is sleepy. Well, anyone who was in that room today saw that it was wall to wall in terms of the thousands of activists who were there. And that doesn't even include the hundreds of individuals, representatives who came to CPAC from 20 nations. 20 nations. We had two foreign presidents speak, President Bukele from El Salvador and President Javier Milei from Argentina, with the same message. Please, America, don't turn to socialism, don't turn to communism. It's critical that you stay the path of protecting your freedoms and staying strong.
Great messages, a lot of great speeches here at CPAC. And And again, the party tonight just getting started. Sending it back to you, Rob and Bianca.
All right, Jen Pellegrino, Mercedes Schlapp, thank you. They call it a watch party, but that looks like a party down there.
Looks like a victory party.
In Maryland.
But polls haven't closed yet.
Yes,
so.
Polls 30 minutes exactly away from closing in South Carolina. And as Mercedes just indicated, Donald Trump made his pitch to voters during his speech today at CPAC. Take a listen.
A vote for Trump is your ticket back to freedom. It's your passport out of tyranny. And it's your only escape from Joe Biden and his gang's fast track to hell. And in many ways, we're living in hell right now. Because the fact is, Joe Biden is a threat to democracy.
All right, Republican strategist Erin Perini is joining us now, along with attorney and Republican consultant Mehek Cook. It is great to have you both on this evening. Mehek, your expectations for what happens tonight?
I think this is going to continue to be a historic win for President Trump. Time after time, he continues to prove that he shows up for the American people. And it's really unfortunate today. You have Democrats that are trying to bankrupt the president and his family. And you have Nikki Haley, who is a Republican, that is essentially trying to do the same in elections. It's not going to work. We are continuing to see poll after poll. The president is dominating. And in South Carolina, it's a huge embarrassment if Nikki Haley continues to trail. My hope was that she would have dropped out before South Carolina. I don't see where she thinks that she's going to pull this nomination off. My mom was a math teacher, Rob, and she always said, show me the math. And the math here does not add up for Nikki Haley. So President Trump will dominate, and he's going to continue. This is about President Trump versus Joe Biden, period.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a math person either. We're journalists here. We're English people. But yeah, at some point, we're looking at the numbers here. 50 delegates up for grabs tonight. Erin, I want to get your take on something else that was breaking today. This report out of the Huffington Post is saying that Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor is actually taking somewhat of an unusual step. You see the headline there. She is traveling with a medic. Now, many on the left have been actually pressuring her to retire while Biden is still in office. Obviously, a new Supreme Court justice by his choice would add a new dynamic to the race, especially with everything from, booting him off the ballot in Colorado to presidential immunity. What do you make of this report on Sotomayor?
Well, first and foremost, I hope that the Supreme Court justice is okay. And it's good that she's taking whatever the necessary steps are to make sure her health is a priority. But you're right, Bianchi. The idea that the left has been trying to push her out so that Joe Biden could have another appointment. But let's remember, when President Trump was a nominee in 2015 and 2016, what did he do? He put forward a list of qualified candidates. That really brought conservatives into his camp. And knowingly so, because they saw what qualified individuals he would put on the bench, what jurists and how their jurisprudence would work. And we've seen that pay dividends for the conservative movement and for the Constitution in the United States. This would not be a flip for Democrats. So if Sotomayor did retire now while Biden was president, they're not going to gain much here, but it would be something if she decided to stick it out and Trump won, to add another conservative seat to the Supreme Court whenever she would leave the bench.
Erin, can I just about 30 seconds, a quick follow-up here. But so that's the concern. It could be Ruth Bader Ginsburg all over again. She could have resigned when Barack Obama was still president. She chose to remain on the court, and to her detriment, when she passed, Donald Trump replaced her with Amy Coney Barrett and Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh. He was able to name 3 justices to the high court in a 4-year period. So we've got 8.5 months to the election. Could something happen here with Justice Sotomayor?
Absolutely. She could step down from the bench and give that seat to Biden to be able to maintain it. Let's remember, Mitch McConnell did hold that vacancy open and kind of played a game of risk there to say if it's Clinton or if it's Trump, whoever it is, the new president should be able to select who it is. But you wouldn't see that from Biden, and you certainly wouldn't see that from Chuck Schumer if Sotomayor were to step down right now. They would absolutely put another person in, but again, it would not change the balance on the court.
Right. And they have some big decisions to make, as we alluded to. Great analysis. Wonderful to have you both in. Erin Perini, Mehek Cook, a pleasure. Thank you, ladies. And don't go anywhere. We're just getting started. We're coming back with much more. Polls are still open for another 25 minutes in South Carolina. We have you covered here on Newsmax. Again, it is a big night. What will Nikki Haley say? And what will Donald Trump say? We have all the speeches and analysis ahead for you tonight. All right. right, welcome back. Great to have you in with us. We have full coverage for you of the South Carolina Republican primary. Of course, Nikki Haley staying in the race. And we want to get out to Jen Pellegrino, who is live at CPAC, where Donald Trump spoke earlier. And there is a huge watch party happening tonight because a lot of people think it will be victory again for 45. Jen?
Yeah, hey, Bianca and Rob. Yeah, you guys are up on the big screens, by the way. Newsmax on 2 massive screens here. This party is electric. I've got Matt Schlapp with me. Obviously, we heard a great speech from former President Trump. Matt, I got to ask you, what did he say to you when he got off stage today after that awesome speech?
He said he felt bad for his speechwriter. He wrote a great speech, but he went out and he saw all those people that went to the back of the room. A little earlier today, we decided to blow out the room, remove that final air wall, put in standing room only, and they were all standing in the back about 20 yards deep, and that pumped him up, and he was like, I just had to give him a fresh perspective on everything. So he told some of the great stories, and I think, you know, he made history. He's the first time a president stopped at CPAC on the day of a primary. You know, Ronald Reagan had that choice, and he went to New Hampshire. And that's not a diss on Ronald Reagan. It just shows you how much Trump loves CPAC.
It does. And Matt, can you think of any other political candidate that can go out on a stage like that and captivate an audience of that size, keep them entertained, have them laughing the way that he did? I certainly couldn't see Joe Biden or even Nikki Haley doing that.
Do it again. He flies. He's probably already landed in South Carolina. He's going to give another speech. I mean, politicians really just don't do that. He does have this indefatigable energy that's just unbelievable, and I think it just really eats at him that they even act like Biden's really doing anything.
It does. Well, I can't wait to see his reaction tonight after, I think, winning South Carolina. Obviously, we'll see as the numbers come in.
Do you like my hat?
I love your hat. We'll talk more about that in a little bit later when you guys come back to us. Sending it back to you, Rob and Bianca.
Yeah, I wanted to know more about the hat, so we'll wait for that. But I saw it says CPAC on the side, so I knew it had something to do. Yeah, I want to know more about it.
Tough. I like it. Great job, Jen. Great to see you.
Thanks,
and
Jen.
Matt, thank you. What an exciting week it has been there, too, at CPAC.
It's been an action-packed week. Started on Wednesday and Thursday. Rob Schmidt, Carl Higbee, Jen Pellegrino, and others down there. And I heard from Carl, and he said it was tough getting to where I had to go when I was there because so many people were coming up to me saying, hey, you know, we love Newsmax. We watch you every day.
Probably mobbed.
All the stuff you want to. All the stuff you want to hear.
That's really it to get that energy. They had a straw poll. Donald Trump won the CPAC straw poll. There's also a new Suffolk USA Today poll. We want to put that up for you. It shows Trump leading Nikki Haley. Look at it here, 63-35. Ouch.
I mean, that's a 28-point spread.
Yeah, I mean, I think she knows this going in.
Yeah.
Many people say it will be embarrassment. It is her home state, but let's talk about it with our next guest. We are lucky to have Trump pollster John McLaughlin and Dick Morris, host of Dick Morris and author of Corrupt, the Inside Story of Biden's Dark Money. Gentlemen, welcome in on a Saturday night, a primary night. John, let's start with you. Nikki says she's in this until every last person votes, even, I guess, the Democrats. That's what she's optimistic for tonight, right?
Well, I guess she's going to do a concession speech tour where as she goes on to lose these states, she gets to concede again. But she's going to lose her home state decisively, and she's going to wear out her welcome in the Republican Party because Donald Trump's winning. The Republicans want to unite and beat Joe Biden. I mean, Donald Trump's beating Joe Biden in the national polls. He's beating him in the battleground state polls. He's going to beat Nikki Haley in her home state tonight. It's time to go on with the national campaign. The stakes are too high. When you look at what's going on in the country with this open border, concerns about high inflation still. The world, you've got wars in the Middle East and Ukraine. I mean, the world wants Donald Trump back. American voters want Donald Trump back, and the Republican Party wants to get on with beating Joe Biden. So let's see what the voters of South Carolina have to say tonight, because they're generally the types that pick presidents.
Yeah,
that's what South Carolina does.
That's such a good point, and you as a polling expert, you know that. But going back to 1980, Ronald Reagan, 8 of the last 9 candidates to win in South Carolina ultimately went on to become the Republican nominee. I believe Newt Gingrich 2012 is the only exception, but John, you would know that better than I would. Dick, good to see you. Monmouth had a poll out earlier this week that got very little attention, probably because it had a lot of bad news for Joe Biden in it. Among that bad news, will Joe Biden be replaced as the Democratic nominee? That was a question that was asked, and 48% said that is somewhat or very likely. So that's almost 50% of the country that does not think Joe Biden's going to be the guy on November the 5th. What do you make of that?
Well, count me among them. I think that the Democrats cannot proceed with Biden with these numbers. They can't even think about that. And they can't, it's hard for them to get rid of Biden because then the issue is, does a black or a white candidate succeed him? But I think that there may be Michelle Obama waiting as a black and Newsom as a white alternative. But I think that the point is Biden has got to get out of this race. It's clear from the numbers you're looking at now that we've gone from seeing a favoring of Trump as opposed to Biden to a landslide for Trump and a consensus that you can't have Joe Biden. It's more than just an opinion now. It's become a consensus.
Well, yes, and there was a report this week that even the donors saying the fact he's using cue cards behind closed doors, calling on donors in rooms is even concerning them. So when you lose your big ticket donors, there's another bad sign for President Joe Biden.
I think 17% of the Democrats in the most recent Rasmussen were voting for Trump.
Yeah. Well, great to have you both in. We'll be checking back in with you throughout the night. Dick and John, thank you. And don't go away, much more ahead. Polls are still open, Rob.
Polls are still open. 15 more minutes. Again, we could have results like right after the top of the hour. So don't go anywhere. Stay with us. We'll be back in 3 minutes.
Vote for America, and the polls are closing in just about 11 minutes, everybody. In South Carolina, of course, it is Trump versus Nikki Haley, her home state, though polls show that Trump is likely going to take this, a state, Rob, that she won as governor in 2010, 2014, but not many endorsements. Congressman Ralph Norman, one of them, but the rest, the governor and senators, have gone to Donald Trump.
Yeah, and South Carolina is one of those states that people forget, but Trump in 2016, when this was an open primary, he won with 35% of the vote. Donald Trump, very popular in the state of South Carolina. It is known, at least during the primary process, as a graveyard for GOP campaigns. 8 of the last 9 have gone on to become the nominee. So if you don't win South Carolina, that is historically not good news for your campaign.
And if it's your home state.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Again, 10 minutes till polls close. There was early voting throughout this week. And she has said no matter what, though, she's staying in. So even forecasting ahead, knowing that she may be taking another loss here.
She could pull a DeSantis. Right? Say that she's staying in and then evaluate things
right, but at
Monday,
this time,
Tuesday, and drop out.
She's also not looking at a vice presidential or anything in Donald Trump's cabinet. So what is her end game here? Some say it's to wait and see if he gets tripped up on these legal cases.
Right.
Or to those independents, even Democrats, who she says she's urging to vote. Mike Carter, though, joins us live from Haley's campaign headquarters this evening, Charleston, South Carolina. Looks a little buzzy behind you there, Mike. What's sort of the vibe and the feeling there from Nikki's supporters?
That's being generous, Bianca. A little buzzy. Let's give you a view. I don't know if we can do a side-by-side with the Trump HQ right now and the Haley HQ. We've got about 25, maybe 30 people waiting on this event to start when the polls close at the top of the hour. Again, less than 10 minutes from now. And this is the kind of enthusiasm gap that we've been seeing with Nikki Haley's campaign really much from the start. From Iowa, New Hampshire, you saw it in Nevada, and you're seeing it again here in Charleston, South Carolina tonight. We were really pressed to find any Haley supporters on the streets of today. So look, there are going to be people here tonight. This will be a celebration at some point. But right now, the lack of enthusiasm, it's showing here in this room. And by all indications on the polls, that's what we're looking at going into tonight. This could be over early, and that's maybe why you're seeing not a lot of people want to show up.
At her campaign headquarters in New Hampshire, a state where you are from as well, and there were some folks who said they came out and voted for her just to vote against Donald Trump, and said they wouldn't even be voting in the general for her. You said it's hard to find some folks, and obviously Newsom's come out and said she's been a great surrogate for Democrats, but what are you hearing from people who are supporting her at this point? They'll support her all the way through, even though they think that she has no chance in a general?
Yeah, I mean, Bianca, in New Hampshire, we talked to a lot of voters, a lot of young Democrat voters that were voting for Nikki Haley to undercut Donald Trump. And that's what a lot of the criticism has been from the Trump campaign this entire way through, that Nikki Haley is not so much courting conservatives, which here in South Carolina, this is going to be the most conservative state yet in this primary race. She's trying to do a kind of an end around here and try to court those Democrat, moderate-leaning voters. Coming into tonight, the polls indicate that kind of strategy just simply isn't working.
Yeah, it's interesting. Nikki Haley, at least to date, you think about what happened in Nevada, she lost literally to a box that said none of these candidates. And this is her home state. She has a primary problem, that much is clear. She says if she faces Joe Biden head-to-head, she'll beat Joe Biden. That would be the Super Bowl, but you've got to win games during the regular season and the playoffs in order to get to the Super Bowl, and that's where we are with these primaries. And until she wins a state, I think she's going to continue to have very loud critics.
Well, we'll see what happens tonight. 7 minutes until the polls close. We'll see how close it is, how embarrassing it may be, and exactly what Mike says, what she will say to her supporters. Thin, but there are some people behind him. Mike Carter, great to have you. Thank you so much. Live update
Thanks,
there
Mike.
from Charleston, Nikki Haley headquarters.
A lot more coming up this evening. Stay with us again. As Bianca said, polls close soon. And as Mike Carter just indicated, could be a very early night. We could know who won this thing in the not-so-distant future. So stay with us.
Vote for America. So exciting to have you with us this Saturday night here on Newsmax. I'm Bianca De La Garza alongside Rob Finnerty. It is our special coverage. Of course, the South Carolina Republican primary polls are about to close in about 2 minutes. 50 delegates up for grabs tonight. And of course, it is Nikki Haley versus Donald Trump. And we know who is leading in the polls, Rob.
Yeah, Nikki Haley, you know, her home state, two-term governor there in South Carolina, seemingly very popular as governor and as a former ambassador. We will see what happens. We could get a result very soon. The question is, if Nikki Haley does lose tonight, and by all measures, that it seems like that's going to happen, based on polling, but how well does she have to do exactly to ride some of that momentum into Super Tuesday on March the 5th? 16 states in one day, 814 delegates on Super Tuesday. Can she win a state on Super Tuesday if she stays in the race?
Right. Well, and exactly. And South Carolina, some say, would be her best case to win the state. She was the governor there. Nikki Haley, though, has vowed to stay in. It's pretty remarkable. She has basically, I think, known she's going to be defeated tonight, Rob. Again, the question is, what will she be able to pull off? And many say, what will she do moving forward? Is it a strategy where she is just waiting for something to fall with Donald Trump's legal cases? We saw the civil fraud ruling. We know he is going back and forth with presidential immunity, his ballot cases with the Supreme Court. Is it Nikki Haley's camp saying, well, we'll just wait until he becomes maybe unsavorable for some people, but for hardcore Republicans, and we've been hearing from many of them, that is not a strategy that is working for Nikki Haley, especially someone who he tapped to be his UN ambassador, who once said she would never run against him. Yet here we are, folks. South Carolina primary polls closing in under a minute.
Yeah, I think if Donald Trump does win tonight and complete this early state sweep, you've got to remember that's historic. It's never happened before to win the first 4 states, and that Trump's on the precipice of doing that right now.
I think we're seeing history tonight, and we continue now. More coverage right now.
Vote for America 2024. The South Carolina presidential primary.
We are so glad you're with us here. It is breaking news, and Newsmax projecting the winner of the South Carolina Republican primary, former President 45, Donald J. Trump, tonight.
Yes, did not take long. We'll get the numbers and we'll get to the analysis as we go through the evening. But Donald Trump, again, much like he did in Iowa, the second the polls closed, that much is clear. He will win his 4th straight state. This has never happened before in the primary process for Republicans. He won Iowa, won New Hampshire, won the Nevada caucus, and now he is the winner in South Carolina. Again, this is our projection here at Newsmax. Good evening to you at home. Welcome back into our special coverage of the South Carolina primary. We were thinking there might be a surprise because this is an open primary, and we're talking about somebody who is a popular two-term governor. Apparently not enough to stop what seems like an inevitability now with Donald Trump as he marches toward the nomination.
Donald Trump speaking today at CPAC, speaking in South Carolina yesterday, saying there's a freight train coming. It is the Trump train. It certainly looks that way. Let's bring in our political panel now. We are joined by Mark Halperin. And Mark, obviously, this is an early call. Newsmax is projecting Donald Trump will get the numbers. I guess you'll be looking at to see how well or how bad Haley fared. Is that the next sort of part of this puzzle here this evening for you?
Well, I think if you look at the exit poll results, and we've got one wave in, more coming, one of the issues that Nikki Haley has talked a lot about, probably as much as anything else, is electability, pointing to those polls, and there are some that show her doing better against Joe Biden than Donald Trump does. The exit polls suggest electability did not work in Donald Trump's, Nikki Haley's favor, that more South Carolina voters said that he was more electable than she is. And that's going to be a challenge for her going forward because, again, that's been one of her calling cards. Even on the issue of fitness to be president, Donald Trump did better. Now, his voters, and he's got a lot more of them than she does, are going to, in all likelihood, say that. But it's overwhelming that she has not found the right message. And of course, what this does, these 4 state results show in the last couple, is even when Nikki Haley gets exactly what Trump's opponents have said they need, a one-on-one race, she's going to fall far short of being able to beat him.
Yeah, Mark, I'm wondering, so Suffolk had a poll out earlier this week, the biggest issue to voters there in South Carolina. 1 and 2, the border and the economy. It was the same in New Hampshire. It was the same in Iowa as well. Could border security and immigration, as we take a live look at the scene in Columbia, South Carolina, this is Trump headquarters. I can see Eric Trump, Matt Gaetz, several Trump supporters on stage. There's Senator Scott there, Senator Lindsey Graham, of course, both of South Carolina. Taking pictures.
All smiles.
This is a wild scene, by the way, Mark. It almost looks like a general election victory.
Fire Biden.
Yeah.
Not just Donald Trump signs. We have fire Biden. You're fired, as he's been saying, the repentance line.
Right. Mark, just your reaction to what we're seeing play out in Columbia.
Well, the Trump campaign said this was Nikki Haley's last chance for them to talk about her, that after tonight they're going to stop talking about her. We'll see if Donald Trump himself can keep that up. I suspect tonight's speech will be more like the excellent speech he gave in Iowa as opposed to the more bitter one he gave in New Hampshire, not just because he's going to win by a bigger margin almost certainly than he won in New Hampshire, but because this campaign and the Fire Biden signs speak to that, wants to turn their full attention to Donald Trump versus Joe Biden and not worry very much now about what they need to do to perform in the subsequent states where there are primaries and caucuses left to run.
You know, the left has been going after every single comment Donald Trump's making. And last night he mentioned something about blacks and support he's getting there. Nikki Haley tried to capitalize that. We'll ask you some more about what his message may be. But here he is taking the stage right now, so we want to listen in. President Trump, the winner tonight of the South Carolina primary.
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say
Thank you very much. Wow. That is really something. This was a little sooner than we anticipated. It was an even bigger win than we anticipated. And I was just informed that we got double the number of votes that has ever been received in the great state of South Carolina. So that's pretty good. So it's a record times 2. And there's something going on in the country. Some really great things are going on. You look outside and you see all of the horror. You see millions and millions of people coming across the border illegally. We don't know where they come from. They come from jails. They come from prisons. They come from all sorts of places that we don't want to know. They come from mental institutions and insane asylums. And we don't want that in our country. We're not going to stand for it. We're not going to stand for it. You have terrorists coming in. You have people coming in that we just can't. We can't do this. No country could sustain what's happening to the United States of America. No country. So we're going to straighten things out. The border is the worst it's ever been. You know, in 2016 we won, and we had a bad border, and I talked about the border a lot. Talked about it a lot. And I said, we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it. We fixed it very quickly. And in 2020, we couldn't talk about it, although we did get millions of more votes a second time. But now there's a spirit that I have never seen. We ran 2 great races, but there's never been, ever, there's never been a spirit like this. And I just want to say that I have never seen the Republican Party so unified as it is right now. Never been like that. And a big part of that is the people standing behind me. These are the biggest officials in South Carolina, but I say like the biggest officials in our country as far as I'm concerned. They're state figures, but they're national figures, and in the truest sense of the word, they love our country so much, and they want to see our country succeed and be respected again. Right now, we're a laughingstock all over the world. Our country is going to be respected again, respected like never before. So this is a fantastic evening. It's an early evening and a fantastic. So you can all go down and you can celebrate for about 15 minutes, and we have to get back to work because the big date, you know, Michigan's coming up. We're doing great. The auto workers are going to be with us 100% because they got sold out by this country. But Michigan's up, and we're going to have a tremendous success there. And then we have a thing called Super Tuesday, and I think we're leading 91-7 overall. If you don't mind, may I have the pleasure of introducing some incredible people? Because they stuck right from the beginning, from the very moment we announced, and they believe in make America great again. That's what they believe in. They believe in America first. We're putting America first. First of all, my family, Melania, Barron, Don Jr. and Kimberly, Ivanka and Jared, Tiffany and Michael. They're so supportive. So supportive of me, and we really appreciate it and love them. They're great. We have a great family, and we have incredible friends, and we're going to be up here on November 5th, and we're going to look at Joe Biden, and we're going to look him right in the eye. He's destroying our country, and we're going to say, Joe, you're fired. Get out. Get out, Joe. You're fired. They're destroying our country, and we're going to... I just wish we could do it quicker. 9 months is a long time. I just wish we could do it quicker, Mr. Governor. I wish we... Is there anything you can do with your vast powers to make that, you know, in certain countries, you're allowed to call your election date. If I had the right to do it, I'd do it tomorrow. I'd say, we're having an election tomorrow. Henry, is there anything you can do? I want to start off because right from the beginning, Henry McMaster, the governor of this incredible state, and much more importantly, his wife, Peggy, she's with him all the way, I'll tell you. Never saw anything. What a couple. But I'd like to ask him to say a few words. He's a very special man, an incredible governor, very popular in the state. And really, I mean, he gave us some very good advice. And he has right from the beginning. You know, from the day I announced I had the lieutenant governor. He was the lieutenant governor. And from right at the beginning, when I announced, then I said, I don't know the gentleman. Is he good? They said, he's really great. I said, well, I hope so. And you know what? Within about 2 weeks, I said, that guy is unbelievable. You know, I never got the support of the governor. She supported somebody else, but I had the support of somebody much, much better, Henry McMaster, and we won in a landslide. And I'd like to ask the governor to say a few words. Please, Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be very brief. Y'all, I would like you all to remember this moment that you were here. This is a great moment in American history. We will probably never see another one like it. Every time a rocket launches, you know, it goes up slow and then it's climbing and climbing and then boom, that next stage comes off and it goes. Well, we just did that. We just hit maximum velocity and we're going all the way.
So I'm going to ask somebody else to say, because he came on board and Lindsey wanted him and the lieutenant governor wanted him and everybody wanted him. Henry and Peggy wanted him. So I thought he was okay, but he didn't love speaking about himself because he's a good person. See, I have no problem with that. It's a problem. What a personality, I don't know. But he endorsed me, and then we asked him to go and do a few shows, and, you know, they're not often nice shows. They're very hostile. And what he did was, I said, is this the same man? And he campaigned nicely, but he's a high-quality person. When he was supporting me, the day, is that correct, Lindsey, when he went out, yeah. Tim Scott, Senator Tim Scott, he went out and he was ripping it. I said, what happened to Tim Scott? What a dynamo. And he has been one of our great advocates. He's been doing things that have been unbelievable. And I'm just very happy he didn't have that same energy, drive, because I think I probably would have been out of the race a long time ago. But I want to say, a very special man. I really do mean it. So many people have such great respect for him, and you're very lucky to have him in the state. Tim, please, say a few words.
Hello, South Carolina! The longer I speak, the less you hear of him. So let me just ask one survey question, and you better answer it loud and clear. Is South Carolina Trump country?
Thank you very much, Tim. Really great job. Amazing. Another man, not a lot of people know him. He doesn't do too much television. He happens to be a little bit further left than some of the people on the stage. But I always say, when I'm in trouble on the left, I call up Lindsey Graham, and he straightens it out so fast. And I'll tell you, no, remember. I love him. He's a good man. Come up here, Lindsey. Come up here, Lindsey. Come here.
Okay, are you ready? America, the nightmare you're facing is just about over. Help is on the way. This is the most qualified man to be president of the United States. And let it be said that South Carolina created the biggest political comeback in American history.
Thank you, Lincoln. So, I have a son who's a very talented guy, and he works so hard, and we love him, and his wife is very good. She goes on, and Laura. And I want to thank Eric and Laura for doing such a fantastic job, and really amazing. They're amazing people. Let's go down a little list of some of the people that are up here tonight, because every one of them is a star in their own right. And your lieutenant governor is going places. You do know that, right? Pamela Evatt. and really going places. And Speaker of the House, Merle Smith, who's coming up in a couple. You know, some of these people are actually busy. He's running to get over here. But we want to thank you, Speaker of the House. Fantastic person, doing a great job for the state. An Attorney General who's been in the news lately a lot, winning cases. Oh, I wish we had such a good Attorney General like that in New York. Oh. He's a great Attorney General. Alan Wilson, thank you, Alan. His father happens to be up here, too. Remember his famous, "You lied," remember? He's been loved ever since, hasn't he, huh? Treasurer Curtis Loftus. Curtis, thank you very much, wherever you may be. Thank you. Thank you, Curtis. Mark Hammond, Secretary of State. Thank you, Mark. Ambassador, and this is a great ambassador, one of the best. Anytime we had a problem, I just call Ed McMullen, and he would solve the problem very quickly. Ed, thank you very much. We have a man who's done a really good job in the state, your South Carolina GOP chair, Drew McKissick. Thank you. Thank you. We have a highly opinionated group of people. I'll tell you, they turned very positive on you very quickly, Elizabeth. So you have a beautiful, beautiful state right next to you, North Carolina. We love North Carolina, right? In fact, they named their daughter Carolina. And I said, which state? She said both. She's very, I think I know which state, but that's okay. But they have the most beautiful daughter named Carolina. So we love both of them. We love them both very much, and we won them both very easily. And one of the reasons we won North Carolina is a man named Michael Whatley, who looks to me, we gave him our endorsement, and he looks to me like he's going to be going on to the National Republican Party as the boss. Michael Whatley. Where's Michael? Michael, thank you very much. And he's going to be working with Laura. And we may be putting Kellyanne in the group, too. Do we like Kellyanne? We love Kellyanne, right? But you're going to do a fantastic job, both of you. We appreciate it very much. What a job he's done in North Carolina. You know, that evening of 2020 with those votes coming in, we're leading in Pennsylvania, and all of a sudden, oh, something happened. It went boom. And then we're leading all over the place, Georgia, and then boom. And we're leading. But North Carolina, I said, when is that going to go? When are they going to drop lots of ballots into that one? And you know what he did? He just kept that thing, and we never had a problem. And I said, that's my kind of guy. He had hundreds of lawyers. How many lawyers did you have? 500 lawyers. He had 500 lawyers to make sure they didn't cheat, and they didn't cheat in North Carolina. And I said, that's my kind of guy, so I appreciate it. Great job. We're very proud of you, and you're going to do a fantastic job. And come election period, you know, we used to have election night. Now we have election period because some of these elections go on for 48 days, 61 days. Then they announce, they get all this equipment, and they announce, they'll be announcing the vote in 3 weeks from now. Can you imagine? They don't know what they're doing, but I will tell you, you have done a fantastic job, and we very much appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. We also have a lot of members of Congress, including members of Congress out in the audience. This room is full of energy, and our party is full of energy like never before. And I mean it. There's never been unity. There has never been unity in our party. Just the fact, think of it, we've had a lot of primaries in this state. The fact that we got double the number of votes in history. There's never been anything like that. Who's ever heard of that? So we have members of Congress with us. I'm very proud of this one because I sort of said, that guy would be great. We had somebody that did a vote that I wasn't exactly happy with. He voted to impeach your favorite president. And until then, he'd love to have that vote back, I can tell you. But until then, he was a man that couldn't be beaten. I said, really? Let's see. I said, who do we have that's good? They said, the best we have is a man named Russell Fry. And Russell Fry got out there, beat him so badly in the primaries. He had my support. And he's been a fantastic congressman. So wherever you may be, hi, Russell. What a great job. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was great. We got rid of that one. We got rid of a lot of them. Almost, I guess, every one of them. Almost every one of them. Now they're gone. The impeachers are all gone. Nancy Mace is here, a non-controversial person, but she's a real advocate, and she's become a real advocate, and I appreciate it, Nancy, very much. Thank you very much. She's a very strong woman, and we want strong women. We like strong women. William Timmons, Congressman William Timmons, who's been a fantastic warrior for our country. Joe Wilson, I spoke to you about him before. He is tough and he is smart. And he and his beautiful wife produced a wonderful, wonderful Attorney General. So, Joe, thank you very much, and you've done a fantastic job, loves our country. Michael Waltz knows more about the military probably than anybody. And we see him on a lot, and I always want his opinion. And he's got very strong opinions, and he hates to see what's happening to our country. That I can tell you, but he'll straighten it out. We'll all straighten it out together. Michael Collins. Michael, thank you. Thank you, Michael. Great job. A very non-controversial person, but a very good person. People don't understand. This is a very good person, and he's a very capable man, Matt Gaetz. Thank you, Matt. That's not bad, Matt. Wow. Wow. That's impressive. I'm very impressed, right? Matt, what's going on? How many people did you put up here, huh? That's fantastic. And by the way, before I forget, we have a group of people, and I know this is okay with you, from North Carolina. It's about 60 women that travel all over the country with me. Every time I'm out, we do a rally. We have to do, at least it has to be of significance, so usually rallies. But I think they're up to number 121. They've done 100. They're all beautiful women. Obviously, they're very wealthy. They look so wealthy and beautiful. Look at them over here. But they travel all over the country, and way over 100. And I'm trying to figure out the husband. They're all happily married. They have these wonderful husbands. One of the husbands is standing right there. He's the smartest one of all. But I just want to thank you. Your support is so incredible. I get out, and it's like a breath of fresh air. I look at these incredible people, and at least here we're having one that's very close, right? You don't have to travel out to California and Texas and all the other places. Well, we very much appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Very special women. A woman who was actually out campaigning today. She is the hardest worker. I said, Marjorie, this is Marjorie Taylor Greene. I said, Marjorie, you don't have to do. She went to a polling sector, and she had the Trump flag, and she's waving it and screaming, vote. I said, Marjorie, it's 4:30. It's just about over for the vote. Please. She said, nope, I'm staying longer. This is the hardest working, wherever you are. The most incredible woman. She's respected by everybody. She is very smart. And I'm just very happy that she's on our side. Right, Eric? I'm very happy that she's on our side, right? So it's been an incredible period of time. We have a country that is a failing nation, but we're not going to have a failing nation very long. We are not going to allow this to happen. We love our country. We love it dearly. We're going to fight for our country. We're going to fight for our rights. We're not going to let this go on because it is not sustainable by any country. You cannot let, I believe, the number by the time we get him out, and remember the date, November 5th, it's going to be the most important date perhaps in the history of our country. The election is on November 5th. So we have Michigan coming next week. We have Super Tuesday. We have Ball coming. You know, we've set a record so far in every single, in Iowa, we got the most votes in history ×2, just like this, the biggest margin ever. We then went to New Hampshire. You know, New Hampshire and Iowa, they've been around a long time politically. And we went to New Hampshire. We got the most votes in the history. That's like who has the most home runs, who has the most hits in baseball, or who threw the most touchdowns in football, who got the most points in basketball. It's very simple. We got the most votes in the history of New Hampshire primary. That's a tremendous, and that goes back so many decades, and we beat them. You know, you have John F. Kennedy, you have a lot of good people to beat, and we beat them by not a little bit, by a lot. And then we went Virgin Islands. I want to thank the Virgin Islands because they made a very strong play for the Virgin Islands, and we got 100% of the Virgin Islands. And then, of course, Nevada, as you know, we went to Nevada. We got 99.6% of the vote. And then they had a primary, and this is no candidate. You know, it's called, this is, at various forms, unknown candidate, but this is no candidate, got 65% of the vote, and they think I was the no candidate because it was a caucus, it wasn't a primary, and you have to know what you're doing. You have to go into the caucus, not the primary, but without going into it, I think we won by 50 points or something like that. So, and then we come here, and what an honor this is. You know, in South Carolina, I've won every primary by a record, and we've won every election by a record, and people like these two, and like this great governor and your great lieutenant governor, and I have to say, thank you very much, Pam. What a job. Thank you. They make it really easy, and many of them, as I was announcing, it seems like a long time ago, but as I was announcing, before I finished the speech, they said, we're endorsing Trump. Those are friends. Those are great, great friends. And we had some strong competitors. I mean, we had some very strong competitors, but these were real friends. South Carolina, thank you very much. Go home, get rest. We have a lot of work ahead of us. We love you all. God bless you all. God bless you all. Thank you very much. God bless you.
So just like that, 4 states, 4 W's for the former president. He wins in South Carolina today. No surprises. He said during his speech, our country is going to be respected again like never before. Now it's on to Super Tuesday. But before we get to March the 5th, let's get to the analysis with senior political analyst and former presidential candidate Rick Santorum. Senator, what'd you make of the speech?
A lot of reminders of what he did in Iowa. I think it'll be very well received. Never, obviously, other than the fact that he won, really never referred to Nikki Haley. As the sign said, he's moved on. It's now about the general election. This primary is over, and he's focused where he should be focused. And he, as you saw, he had some folks that ran against him up on stage. He had folks that didn't support him up on stage. People who have been critical of him up on stage. Saying, these are good people, and you need to come together and become a team, and focus on what the real mission here, and that's to win the November election. So, very well done by Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, that's the unity he's talking about. I just.
Right.
I love his walk-off song.
You have to demonstrate that.
He does.
You have to demonstrate unity.
You know,
can't
we
just
saw
talk about it.
Lindsey Graham, waving a kiss to someone in the crowd. Tim Scott, as you mentioned, Russell Fry, who's going to be joining us in just a few minutes. Senator Santorum, Mike Waltz, calling Nancy Mace, who was on with us earlier. It is time to move on. And even mentioning the new RNC, Whatley, and also his daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, who was there with his son, Eric Trump. So some of the early polls are showing that the economy and immigration were two of the biggest issues, Senator Santorum, for voters in South Carolina. I would think that would be mirrored across other primaries we'll be seeing next week. Michigan, March 2nd will be Idaho, and then, of course, Big Super Tuesday. I don't know how Joe Biden gets around to any of that with the economy and immigration. In particular, we have this terrible story about University of Georgia where a Venezuelan illegal immigrant has murdered a student there. If these are the topics that are resonating in South Carolina, it just seems like it spells disaster for Joe Biden and the Democrats.
It certainly does. The issue set is tailor-made for Donald Trump. There's nobody who is more identified with securing the southern border. Not because he talked about it, it's because he did it. So that you just have this stark contrast, and the fact that the president spent as much time as the former president spent as much time as he did on talking about the southern border in this speech. He's going to talk about it in every speech. It is not only a high-profile issue, it's one that he is incredibly strong on. And now you see Joe Biden actually starting to propose things to clean up the border that Trump did, that he rescinded. So it's just an affirmation that that he did the right thing at the border. That all the talk about him being cruel and putting people in cages and all these horrible things just weren't true. I mean, the reality is that Trump did the right thing. It kept the country safe and secure from elements coming across the border. Kept the drugs out of the country. If Donald Trump can do what he did tonight, and repeat this over and over again. In other words, stay on message, stay on the issues that are winning issues for him. This campaign will be a very successful one.
Nope, I like the way you put that. And we did the Iowa caucuses together, Senator, and this speech reminded me of that in its tone. He was short tonight, spoke for about 25 minutes, but you forget, and you think about our current commander-in-chief, Joe Biden. He's not doing what Trump just did today. He was up in D.C. or just outside our nation's capital at CPAC, delivered a speech a few hours ago, boards his plane, goes down there to South Carolina, the capital, Columbia, delivers that victory speech, and now it's back to the campaign trail for the former president. And by the way, we are keeping an eye.
And he'll try to skip out on debates.
Yes, we'll see. And it served him well so far. You're saying Joe Biden? Yes, absolutely. I think he'll use what Trump did as an excuse, too. But again, we've got 8.5 months to go. We're keeping an eye, by the way, on the Haley camp. Typically they coordinate this deliberately. One will speak and then the other candidate will speak. So we're waiting to hear from Nikki Haley. Does she drop out? Does she stay in the race? She says she's staying in the race. Senator, good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Santorum. Such a pleasure. To his point, too, saying, we're even hearing from Biden saying he might do some things with the border. 7.3 million illegals into our country later. He decides to maybe talk about this. Let's bring in our next panel to get more analysis. Welcoming Craig DeLuz, a founder of Uncommon Sense Media Group and the spokesperson for the California Republican Assembly. Also here with us, political consultant Rick Holt. Gentlemen, welcome in. So I'll start with you, Craig. As California, the border's a huge issue. I used to live in California. I fled to the free state of Florida, as they say. Losing tonight, Nikki Haley again up against it. We're waiting to hear her comments, but what are you looking to hear from her tonight as she, I guess, continues on after this massive victory by Donald Trump?
Well, I think it's very clear the Republican Party voters have spoken, and they want Donald Trump to represent them in the general election. And I think it's time for Nikki Haley to understand that, and it's time for her to get on board with that, and to I think, echo President Trump's message of unity and say it's time to come together, and it's time to focus on who we really need to be dealing with, and that's getting Joe Biden out of office.
It's not just the folks he had assembled on the stage. It really is the working man now and who Republicans are representing. And you're seeing Latinos coming in droves, blacks. And I want to play a little bit, gentlemen, of what he said last night at the gala with conservatives in South Carolina about the support he's getting and really in connection with some of the weaponization of the government and the witch hunts against him. Let's play this.
Where are you? Where's Mark? He's a great guy. Good. These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones, you see? That's how far I've come. That's how far I've come. That's a long way, isn't it? These lights.
You know, Nikki Haley tried to say these comments were disgusting. It's going to be more chaos. That's been one of her talking points. But this is just Donald Trump speaking from the hip. And he spoke at CPAC today, no teleprompter for an hour and a half. It's his authenticity. It's his genuine thoughts. And people respond to that, Rick. They want outsiders. They want people who are not career politicians. And we have one right now who is running our country into the ground, many say.
That's absolutely right. And not only that, but the average voter is not going to see anything more into those comments than him firing from the hip. That's something we've come used to. I've got people in my family giving me a call and saying, hey, we're voting for Trump. We haven't voted Republican before. These are black members of my family that have been hardcore Democrats that are saying Trump's being treated worse than black people are being treated by this judicial system. And they're excited about voting for him. So some of the comments that he made following that were absolutely on par, and I agree with it. And you're absolutely right. Americans are looking for authenticity. They're looking for somebody who understands the conditions that they're living and wants to do something about it.
Boy, the polling has been very good since we started the new year. Iowa, we saw the polls before the Iowa caucuses early January. Trump beat Nikki Haley by 31 points in Iowa, and then a few days later in New Hampshire, Donald Trump won by 12 points. We've got the numbers now. Trump with 59% of the vote here in South Carolina. Nikki Haley with, I believe, 41%, which would be an 18% or 18-point margin, which is spot on with where that Emerson College poll was that came out at the beginning of last week. Trump was up by 23 points. So just quickly, Craig, about 30 seconds, your reaction to the spread there, an 18-point win for Donald Trump in Nikki Haley's home state.
Oh, it's going to grow even more. He's going to win by well more than 20 points. I think that he has sent a very clear message with his victory today. It's time to get on board the Trump train. He is going to be the Republican nominee for president in 2024.
Gentlemen, we appreciate your time. Craig DeLuz and Rick Holt, thank you. A pleasure to have you both in with us. Thank you.
All right, we want to go back to CPAC where Jen Pellegrino is standing by. Donald Trump spoke there a few hours ago. He spoke for about an hour and a half. You were just pointing out that he did not use a teleprompter. The former president did not use a teleprompter in South Carolina this evening as well. Jen, how's it looking there?
Hey, it's looking great here. You should have heard the chants in the room when Newsmax projected that Donald Trump would win the South Carolina primary. Chants of USA, USA, just like we heard, right, Mercy? During his speech today, a lot of folks very vocal hearing the former president. Tell us, were you surprised at the results tonight? I don't think so, right?
It was like 0% reported, John. Come on. But I got to tell you, he gave a pretty long speech considering that he spoke like over an hour and a half here at CPAC. But you can tell he's focused, he's determined, he knows where he's got to take this fight, and it's time to unify the Republican Party.
He seemed to really enjoy the crowd here at CPAC. I mean, that was a pretty long speech. As we've mentioned before, he went off script, which you don't see as much, at least as long as he did. So that really was something, and it seems like that's why he spoke so long tonight in South Carolina.
I know, but then you have the crazy fake news saying, and you heard this, that in the speech he said that he confused Melania with me, which is totally, when I tell you fake
I don't know, Mercy, I think Matt Schlapp has a little bit of competition in Donald Trump. I think he should watch out. But listen, speaking of partners for Donald Trump, let's talk about VP picks, because obviously a lot of people are wondering. I know CPAC held a straw poll. Yes. Tell us about that.
You know, they surveyed over close to 1,500 participants here at CPAC, which is a very good number. Well, it was going to be Governor Kristi Noem and Vivek Ramaswamy tied for 15%. Tulsi Gabbard did very well. Tim Scott, J.D. Vance, all did very well, but the top two tied Governor Kristi Noem from South Dakota, Vivek Ramaswamy, who spoke twice here at CPAC, once last night at the Reagan dinner and today to the crowd.
Very interesting. We'll wonder if he'll be looking at those results to help make his decision. All right, we're going to send it back to you guys in New York. Bianca, and Rob.
All right, Jen, Mercedes, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
We're going to take a quick break. Nikki Haley's scheduled to speak in just a few minutes. We want to bring you that live as it happens. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. We have coverage for you right now, waiting for Nikki Haley to speak. She has lost her home state, South Carolina primary. You're looking live here at the numbers. Newsmax calling it for Donald J. Trump with 55% to Nikki Haley, 44. Right now, 7% of precincts are reporting here, but the Republican primary going to Trump. 50 delegates.
Yes, we'll see 7% again in. We'll see where the numbers end up over the next few hours. You can see now the spread is, 11 points there. So it will expand and contract throughout the night. But again, it's going to be interesting to see how Nikki Haley, if she decides with her team, and these conversations are happening right now, to remain in the race, and all indications are that she's going to stay in the race, how she spins losing in her home state. We'll bring you that live as it happens.
And we brought you Donald Trump live, a huge show of support on the stage there, from Lindsey Graham to Senator Tim Scott. Of course, still rumors about him being a possible VP pick on the stage, talking about unity. Really didn't even mention Nikki Haley, just sort of looking forward to the general election there. And a big crowd, smaller crowds at Nikki Haley's camp in Charleston, South Carolina. But again, we are waiting for her to come out, and it will be interesting to see, as you say, spin, maybe continue to try and get some momentum as we go into next week, which is Michigan, then March, and then, of course, Super Tuesday. But I don't know how she comes forward again and says that there's a path forward. But there were people, just a few minutes ago, Rob, we saw them, with the Nikki signs there. So the people who are there, you have to wonder, must be independent, leaning Democratic, hoping a legal case trips up Trump.
And just the contrast between the two events as you take a look at, that was Charleston, so that's the Haley camp there. There are Fire Biden signs all over the Trump, at the Trump campaign headquarters in Columbia. So I think just, from a psychological standpoint, people have moved on to the general election when it comes to Donald Trump. And with Nikki Haley, it's not the case. Again, we'll go there when that happens. For now, let's welcome in Politico White House reporter Daniel Lippman, along with Republican strategist Aaron Perini. Aaron, what'd you make of the Trump victory and victory speech, maybe more importantly?
Well, the Trump victory was resounding at this point. We'll see where the final numbers land. And the speech was a strong one for the president, pivoting to the general election and hitting Joe Biden. To your point, having those Fire Biden signs. Not only is he speaking about it, but also they're visually adding to that conversation. Their messaging is consistent. He's talking about the path forward, the Republican Party unifying. And that's really important, especially when it comes to the general election in November.
So if you are in Nikki Haley's Trump campaign right now, you just listened to Donald Trump. I wonder if you're tweaking her speech right now. She's been going with a lot of talking points, talking about how Trump is going to bring chaos. It looked there like it's bringing a revival to the country. You heard Senator Lindsey Graham saying the nightmare is, paraphrasing, but basically the nightmare is over and everything you're seeing. Daniel, we heard from some of the exit polls that the economy and immigration were huge on voters' minds. I don't know how Nikki Haley goes and comes out tonight and says that she's going to be better than Donald Trump when he has this record to win and run on.
It's going to be very hard, and so far she is, banking on Wall Street donors continuing to fund this campaign. She spent $15 million in South Carolina, and Trump only spent $900,000. And look at the victory we saw for Trump. And so she has said openly, I think believed to the Wall Street Journal, that she's okay hurting Trump for the general election, even if it hurts Republicans, because she thinks she still wants to give her voice and believes that for the minority of Republicans that it's important to have a primary.
She also said that it's going to be a woman president. It's going to be her or Kamala. So you can say things, but in the end, you also have to do things.
Tough
like
to say, again,
the
tough to
sky
claim
is green, but it's not.
Yeah, no, it's tough to claim you're the comeback kid if you don't ever come back. And until she wins a state, we're going to have this conversation until she does something, drops out of the race, or performs well in Michigan or Idaho or on Super Tuesday. But at least right now, that remains to be seen. We're going to take a quick break. Appreciate both of you being back with us.
Sarah and Daniel, thank you.
Yes, when we come back, we will go to South Carolina, where Nikki Haley is expected to deliver her remarks in just a few minutes. Stay with us. We'll be
Welcome back, and you are watching Newsmax's extended coverage where Donald Trump has won the Republican primary. Newsmax calling it for him, and we are waiting Nikki Haley to speak in South Carolina, but 50 delegates going to Donald Trump this evening. We want to bring back in senior political analyst Rick Santorum to talk about what we have heard and what we may hear. Senator Santorum, great to have you. You know, Rob and I were sort of chatting with you about what Nikki Haley may say. I want to get your take earlier today because you actually were called out by former President Donald Trump as well, gave you some support during his CPAC speech. I heard that live. Tell us about sort of, you know, where he goes from here as well. He made a very conscious decision not to really say anything about Haley and just look forward.
Yeah, that's the smart move, and I'm sure you know, I have some folks that are on his campaign who worked on my campaign and are very close in the Trump inner circle, and the message has been pretty consistent. The president obviously he's paying attention to it, and even the speech at CPAC. I mean, it was not one that he went after his Republican opponents. He realizes that this is a time to build the party, to create unity, to get everybody on the same page, and to focus on Joe Biden. And that's what you're going to see. You're going to see Trump at his best, hopefully, going forward.
I always say it, Senator. Everybody loves Rick Santorum. I always say it.
We sure do.
Senator, again, this is Monday morning quarterbacking on a Saturday, and we'll hear what Nikki Haley has to say when she delivers her remarks. Again, we're expecting that at any moment. But look at what she did, and you know Iowa better than most. You won Iowa back in 2012. So she poured a ton of resources into Iowa, but even more into New Hampshire. She came in third in Iowa, so it didn't work there. Don't forget, Ron DeSantis came in second in Iowa. Then she lost by 12 points in New Hampshire after spending the majority of her time on the trail to date in the Granite State. It did not work. She didn't spend a lot of time in her home state, spent a lot of money, something like $16 million, and it didn't work out today. When she looks back, if she does ultimately end up dropping out of this race, and it looks like that is the direction we are going, when we look back and she looks back on her campaign, do you think that those will be glaring mistakes that she will point to?
I look at it this way. I mean, Nikki Haley, if you would have asked me at the beginning of this campaign, and you did, who would be the toughest opponents of Donald Trump, I wouldn't have said Nikki Haley. I didn't think she was someone who would have survived this. Clearly, Ron DeSantis was the one that everybody had their eyes on, and Tim Scott was another. It wasn't Nikki Haley. It was Tim Scott that people thought was going to be the strongest person out of South Carolina. So, yeah, she hasn't closed the deal, but you got to give her credit. She survived. She was the survivor. She got it down to Trump versus Haley, and it wasn't there for her. I don't think it was ever there for her. But the fact that she was able to get herself through this you know, a meat grinder of a primary and survive. You know, I tip my hat to her as someone who went through this. It's not an easy thing to do. To end up as the number 2 person. It isn't number 1, but it shows that you had something going for you to get to where she got.
And we're waiting to see what she says about the disappointing loss.
Well, that's going to be interesting. Whether you know, you look at the numbers. I haven't seen a recent number, but if you look at those numbers, you'll see how close it is. That may help make her decision for her.
Stick around, Senator Santorum. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with much more coverage. Don't go anywhere.
Vote for America 2024. The South Carolina presidential primary.
Great to have you in this Saturday night. What a night it is. I'm Bianca De La Garza.
I'm Rob Finnerty. Great to be with you. If you are Donald Trump or part of the Trump campaign, a very good night. He completes the early state sweep, which has never been done before. 1 in Iowa, 1 in New Hampshire, 1 decisively in the Nevada caucus, and 1 in Nikki Haley's home state. Trump has now won 3 times in the state of South Carolina, going back to 2016.
Looking at the numbers there, 56 to Nikki Haley, 44%, her home state there. We're waiting for Nikki Haley to come out and address her supporters in Charleston, South Carolina at her headquarters there. But in the meantime, we'd love to bring in right now South Carolina Congressman Russell Fry, who is minutes ago on the stage with Donald Trump as we were listening to him live. Congressman Fry, pleasure to have you. Obviously, this is disappointing for Nikki Haley in her home state. She's saying she will continue on. What's your message to her tonight as someone who has endorsed Trump and seen the crowd there and the voters of your state and her state now speak?
Well, the message is pretty clear that you don't win Iowa, you don't win New Hampshire, you don't win Nevada or the Virgin Islands, and now you don't win your home state. It is time to consolidate. Look, this is a primary in name only. Everyone understands where this is headed and that Donald Trump is going to be the Republican nominee. And so why are we belaboring the point and beating a dead horse? Let's get out, consolidate support, and go win back the White House. The country, the future of the country is too important to continue on this path of dividing Republicans.
Yeah, Congressman, appreciate you jumping off stage to join us. It went from a watch party to just a party there behind you. I wish I was there. Can you tell me what this means to lose your home state, particularly a state like South Carolina? If you look at presidential candidates in the past, you can look at Elizabeth Warren, certainly Kamala Harris, go back to Al Gore in Tennessee. It hasn't worked out for them. What does this mean for Nikki Haley tonight?
Well, I think it's a devastating loss in a lot of ways. I mean, this is an individual who served for close to 8 years as our governor. She was in the State House. She's from the state. But you can't lose your backyard. And if you do that, I think that really tells, I mean, you should kind of run up the score in your own state over everyone else, but that's not in the cards here. And so I think that kind of shows where this race is going, and that's why it's really important, in my opinion, to consolidate support now behind the person who can get the delegates, who can win the nomination, and who can win back the White House.
And Congressman Fry, speaking of the backyard, a lot of people worried about our backyard, our wide open border, and I found it somewhat interesting. I want to ask you in particular, you put up legislation just a few months ago, December 2023, about the Chinese spy balloon. You put in legislation after it floated across our country for days, and now we had reports just yesterday of another balloon just floating over our country. You look at where we are, where we have gone since Donald Trump left office, sir. I know you're personally involved in a lot of these things happening in Congress, but there's major concerns about our national security and the illegals, especially the ones that are committing crimes like the tragedy in Georgia where an innocent girl lost her life, and the main suspect is an illegal from Venezuela.
Right. No, it's very concerning. When I talk to people in the district and speak with them, Republican, Independent, Democrat, a lot of them are saying the same thing, which is we don't feel like we're getting ahead in this country. The economy is not working for us. The border is wide open. We see the crime in our streets. We see the 300 Americans that die every single day from fentanyl poisoning. And quite frankly, people are fed up with it. They're ready for something different. And even Democrats are starting to recognize the failure of this administration and why it's important to have strong leadership in the White House like Donald Trump.
Yeah, and you know, that issue means so much to you, too, that Chinese spy balloon. You think where it was shot down. It was shot down right off the coast of your home state, South Carolina. Congressman, great having you on this evening. Congratulations to you. Enjoy the rest of the night. We appreciate you being with us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Congressman Russell Fry. Appreciate you joining us tonight for our extended coverage. And, of course, much more reaction from South Carolina, including reaction from the loser, Nikki Haley, losing her home state tonight. We have much more ahead. We also have Mike Carter, who's at the headquarters there, talking to supporters there. Discouraging night for her. How will she spin it? Well, stay tuned. We'll find out together.
Good evening. Welcome back in. Donald Trump, the big winner in the state of South Carolina. Want to go back to CPAC in National Harbor, Maryland, where Newsmax host Jen Pellegrino is standing by with this skull and crossbone hat. I know it's a CPAC hat, but what's the story with this hat, Jen?
Rocking it.
Yes.
Matt insisted. Matt, we need the story. Bianca and Rob want to know about the hat. What's the deal with the hat?
I don't know, CPAC and all the people who love America, it's like we've lost everything. It's like we've lost all the universities, all the big woke companies, all the big institutions in society. And you know what? I just feel like we're the pirate ship now. All the people who love this country, we got to get back and take it back.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of that, obviously we heard Donald Trump's speech in South Carolina, a great victory speech after his great speech here at CPAC, but we're waiting on Nikki Haley. And I would suspect...
Is she going to make a victory speech?
I'm guessing she will. So tell us, what should we be listening for, and what are the real facts about this race?
Well, I think the fork was stuck in her tonight, so I think that it should be done. But
Think she'll drop out?
No, I don't. From what I hear, and I'm not a close associate of her team, but from what I hear, she's got plenty of money. She's getting all the money from these now Democrat donors. She's getting money from Biden donors. The reason why the polls got a little tighter at the end is they did a huge Democrat turnout effort. And I just think that's a gross perversion of what this is about. I mean, we have all these states that are trying to pick the Republican nominee by knocking Trump off the ballot. We have DOJ, state of New York and state of Georgia trying to take Trump out by prosecuting him. And it's like, why can't Republicans just pick their own nominee? Why is that radical for these people? Just let us pick. No Democrats, just Republicans.
So how does Joe Biden, does he make it to November as the nominee?
I don't like talking about this because I want to run against him because he's so weak. But we all know since 2016 he's a shell of his former self. And he was never smart. He was never the sharpest knife in the drawer. He had to lie about his grades in college. He had to lie about where he ranked in his law school class. He had to lie about having a scholarship to law school. I mean, he's always had to cover up his record because, it's okay to be mediocre, but that's what he is.
So Super Tuesday, Matt, coming up March 5th. What should we be looking for?
I just think this race is pretty much over, and it's about the general election. You saw what Trump talked about in his glorious CPAC speech. He really didn't get into all these other people and Nikki Haley. He talked about why Joe Biden's wrong for the country, why his policies are dangerous for the country. And what was interesting, you know this, Jen, we had 2 world leaders at CPAC. We had some former world leaders at CPAC. We had 20 countries, and actually 20-plus countries represented. The whole world's rooting for Donald Trump. They're all rooting for America to, get it back together.
And a lot of people, Matt, watching the conversations going on here at CPAC as they look toward November. So obviously you guys are really busy. I know you probably don't even want to think about your next event right now because you and Mercy need a little bit of a break. But what's up next for you guys?
Yes, a break. I might just take it easy tonight. And then, really the thing is between now and November, there's going to be a tremendous amount of travel, all kinds of campaigning, and the world is knocking on our doors saying we want CPACs in all these countries. So we'll be going over to work in those countries as well. It's become quite an expanded mission, but the most important thing we can do is save this country. We've got to do it. If we don't do that, what are we going to tell our kids? What are we going to tell our grandkids? What do we tell the people that really want us to get this done? We got to do it.
Amen. And man, what a great crowd here tonight in D.C. of all places at this watch party. Amazing crowd at CPAC and here for this event. And of course, Newsmax, you guys on the big screens here. Everybody cheering when they hear that Trump projected to win the primary. And again, hearing his speech here. So, Matt, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Jen.
All right, going to send it back to you guys in New York.
Jen and Matt, thank you so much. Yes, it was an epic CPAC. What a great day and great watch party there tonight. Yeah, Javier Milei. It was funny. Donald Trump today during his speech said he's MAGA too. Make Argentina great again. Yeah, really, really cute. But shows sort of the global collective consciousness with conservative movements that's happening in the trend. And, it's amazing to see how big and influential CPAC has grown to.
And Milei, the man of the moment right now, and backstage, and we'll play the video for you, but they embraced Donald Trump and Javier Milei, a big hug backstage, which was very telling. And very fascinating because typically you don't see that with world leaders, former presidents. You don't see that sort of embrace. So just very interesting.
Because Trump can also push out to the side if they're doing the photo. He can do that too.
Well.
So we
different circumstances that time, but yeah.
All right, so we're waiting for Nikki Haley to come out. But meantime, let's take you back out to her headquarters. Mike Carter is live for us in Charleston. He has some Nikki Haley supporters there. So Mike, we'll let you take it away. You have the floor, sir.
All right, guys. Well, we are here with a couple of Nikki Haley supporters. You guys drove down from Pennsylvania. That's how passionate you are about Nikki Haley. Look, this race was called tonight almost immediately after the polls closed here in South Carolina. Was that a surprise to you? And what is Nikki Haley's path forward?
I was just hoping she can get 40% and get enough money to stay in the race.
Just staying in the race. Now, a lot of people say Nikki Haley, at some point, she's got to win one of these primaries for it to make sense. What do you think?
I think that if she's close enough and as long as the money is coming in, she can stay in as long as she wants. And this will mean that for Trump later that he has to do something to unify the party if he were to be the nominee.
Now, what is the reason Nikki Haley should stay in this race? She has yet to win a primary. A lot of folks say, boy, if she wins anything, maybe a handful of states on Super Tuesday. There is no mathematical path forward. Is it all just about waiting for Donald Trump's legal cases to catch up with him? Is that what we're waiting for?
In part, and also it's hope that we can actually get a little bit of moderation in the country, and that message may get through to the RNC that, there's a large portion of the Republican Party that wants moderation.
There you go, moderation. All right, last question for you guys. If Donald Trump is eventually the nominee, who are you voting for in the general election?
I would most likely vote for the No Labels Party because it is more moderate and you bring a Democrat and a Republican together, and I think that will unify this country.
All right, he says no labels. What do you say?
Either I won't vote or Biden.
You will vote for Joe Biden over the Republican nominee if it's not Nikki Haley.
Over Donald Trump.
Over Donald J. Trump. That's a good clarification. All right, there you have it, guys. These are reflective of a lot of Nikki Haley supporters, I think. Is that right? I mean, a lot of folks feel that way. We have a lot of passion here, a lot of folks waiting to see what Nikki Haley has to say tonight. Look, she's the former governor of this state. A lot of people want to know from the candidate, what is your path forward? How do you make sense of this race now that, well, you're 0 for 4?
Yeah, 0 for 4. By the way, hasn't happened before. So a huge night for Donald Trump. And that gentleman there, No Labels does not have an announced candidate yet. So there might not be anybody to vote for. Joe Manchin not running. Former Governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan, announced that he's going to run for the Senate. Those were the two front runners for that No Labels ticket. So right now, nothing cooking there with No Labels.
No, exactly. So we will continue to wait for Nikki Haley. Maybe they're tweaking her script after
I
this
bet
and
that
seeing
that
what
wouldn't
Trump,
surprise
so maybe
me
they want
at
to
all.
add or subtract some things to strike a different tone. Let's bring in Republican Congressman from Florida, Congressman Mike Waltz, who is on the stage with winner Donald Trump this evening in Columbia, South Carolina. Congressman, great to have you in. I'd like to talk about some of the energy in the room. We could, feel it in the screen, but you were right there on the stage. We saw Senator Scott, Senator Graham, not just you. We had Congressman Fry on a few minutes ago. And you are also on the House Armed Services Committee. We're in a 2-year anniversary today also of Ukraine war. We look back to what the world was like under Donald Trump not that long ago and to what we are right now, where some say we are in a cold war, or a hot war, in fact, with Iranian proxies all around the globe. Tell us about your thoughts tonight and the feeling inside that room.
Well, first, I don't know how the president does it, but his energy was through the roof. He knows everyone's name backstage, from members of Congress. There's a lot of 535, right, to local officials, the governor. There were some key supporters of him. He knows their spouses. I mean, you just contrast that with what we're seeing right now, with Biden literally having to read from a note card at a donor event where obviously everybody there is supportive of him. And he's been doing this for over 50 years. So he is so on top of his game. He seems to be gaining momentum. I think the rest of us would be exhausted. But the other piece, and I'll tell you this as a veteran and as a Green Beret, is our adversaries see what's happening to Biden. And our adversaries right now are on the march because they see opportunity. And I was just talking with the president backstage and just, reminded him, not that he needed it, but he was the first president ever, or at least in modern American history, to leave the Middle East better when he left office than when he came into office. ISIS was defeated, Iran was broke, and we literally had peace breaking out with the Abraham Accords. Not to mention the fact that Putin he didn't dare start anything. Not to mention the fact that Chairman Xi of the Chinese Communist Party saw what President Trump was willing to do over chocolate cake in Mar-a-Lago when he sent cruise missiles screaming, right? So I know that we have a fantastic military, but right now it is demoralized. We're in a recruiting crisis. The equipment is aging, and our enemies, our adversaries, don't respect America right now, and that's why you have some ragtag bunch of terrorists, the Houthis, literally shutting down global shipping, and we're playing patty cakes and tit for tat with them.
And we hear Putin
also while our
and we hear Putin 2 times in a week saying, I want Biden. No wonder why he wants a Biden. All great, very salient points today.
That's a very good point. And also the media not reporting that Vladimir Putin tacitly endorsed Joe Biden for president. Believe me, and you know this, Congressman, but if it were the other way around, that would be the biggest story in America right now. I just want to talk about this poll that came out earlier this week going into tonight. Suffolk University had a South Carolina poll, the biggest issue to voters, and these are now the 2 biggest issues in 4 straight states. It's the border, and then it's the economy. I'm wondering if we know that 2024 is not going to be 2022 all over again, okay? Things have shifted. Could the border cancel out the impact of abortion in November?
Well, look, I mean, my hat's off to Governor Abbott of Texas, who has transformed this from a border state issue to a national issue where their blue state mayors are feeling it. And when you see moms who are used to having their kids in a local community center after school, now the community center is filled with migrants. When you have kids who can't even go to school because it's filled with migrants, when you have everybody who's walking through Chicago O'Hare Airport, seeing migrants lining the thoroughfare there, people are seeing it, they're feeling it, and they're upset about it. So I do think so. And again, what's going to be different about this election than 22 or 20 is people have something to point to that worked under President Trump. I mean, he had the most left-wing socialist, self-described socialist president of Mexico, AMLO, agreeing to remain in Mexico and putting his army on his southern border because President Trump knew how to deal. Same president that Biden's dealing with that's now passing migrants through. So there's real tangible successes on what people's lives were like under President Trump, what the border was like, what crime was like, what the economy was like, what the world was like, and what it's like now.
Real fears today about what exactly what exists today. And we really appreciate you talking about the energy there because we could really feel it. But to be on that stage, what a moment tonight. Great win there. Not so great for Nikki Haley, but Congressman Waltz, yes.
The only thing more exciting than being at a rally is being at a Trump victory party. So, yeah.
We're going to have to take your word for it tonight.
A lot of that going around.
We wish we could be there.
A lot of that going around. Good to see you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congressman Waltz.
All right, thank you.
Pleasure to have you in tonight. And don't go anywhere. Still ahead. Again, we're waiting for Nikki Haley to come out. We're going to take a very quick break and expect her when we come back.
Okay, welcome back into our special coverage of the South Carolina primary. We want to go back to Trump campaign headquarters in Columbia, South Carolina, the state capital where John Huddy is standing by. John, good evening.
Yep. Well, good evening to you. Yeah, the Trump campaign was expecting this victory tonight. It was pretty extraordinary that the president came out just after 7 o'clock. We were hearing that he was going to be making his basically his victory speech, before really the polls, right as the polls closed and the numbers started coming in. But as we know, he's very well ahead of Nikki Haley, and that was the expectation as now the campaign moves on to Michigan and then, of course, Super Tuesday on March 5th. And also what we're seeing, he's got about 59% of the vote over Nikki Haley. Also, one thing that was pretty clear when former President Trump spoke at CPAC earlier this afternoon, he didn't really make mention of Nikki Haley a lot. He instead focused his words more on the Biden administration, the border crisis, the war in Ukraine, saying, and we've heard this from him before, that it wouldn't have happened under his leadership. So really, he's focused more on beating Joe Biden. We've heard him say now over the last couple days, Joe, Biden, you're fired. He said that again tonight as he was joined on stage by members of his family, Eric Trump, Laura Trump, Senators Tim Scott, and also Lindsey Graham, who, by the way, got booed pretty loudly, as you probably heard, by the crowd here, but making mention quite a bit on his campaign at these events of Tim Scott, bring Tim Scott up quite a bit to say some words. So, again, that's kind of fueling the speculation that possibly Senator Scott may be on the short list of potential running mates. That remains to be seen, but again, the Trump campaign focused on winning South Carolina and moving now the campaign on to the next step, Michigan, and then, of course, Super Tuesday on March 5th, he goes.
John Huddy, live for us, Trump headquarters, Columbia, South Carolina. It looks like the party has moved now to the after party. So, John, thank you for that live update there. Huge night for Donald Trump and team. Let's bring in our panel to talk about Nikki Haley's upcoming comments. We have Republican strategist Erin Perini and senior political contributor and host of Saturday Agenda right here, Rob Astorino. Welcome in. Good to see you both. Rob, I'd like to start with you and put up the numbers here. Obviously, Nikki Haley, home state, getting 40% with 39% of the precincts here. Donald Trump, though, commanding 60%. If you're talking to her right now, we're waiting for her to come out. What do you think she says about this number?
I don't know what she can say, because she said she had to do better than what she did in New Hampshire, and that was a 12-point loss. So it's getting worse for her. And what makes it even worse is it's in her home state, clearly. Look, I think she had every right between New Hampshire and tonight to continue to campaign, because she was going into her home state where if anything was going to happen, it was going to be there. It was
Rob,
an open primary.
we don't mean to interrupt, but Nikki Haley is taking the stage, so we want to watch and listen. Nikki Haley, let's listen in, everybody. Charleston, South Carolina.
Thank you. I want to start off obviously thanking my family. I am so incredibly blessed. I was able to speak with Michael this morning. His support has been amazing. The kids have really stepped up, sometimes too much, but they have stepped up in a way that has made me so, so proud. I am blessed because I had the ability to actually go vote today with my mom. And there's something very special with the fact that she was a lawyer in India, and she was named one of the first female judges. And because of the times, she was never able to sit on the bench. But the fact that she could go with me and cast her ballot for her daughter as President of the United States was an amazing. I want to thank my parents who taught me strength and grace. I want to thank Michael's parents who have been unbelievably supportive through all of this. And I want to thank my brothers and my sister and their families for always supporting us every step of the way. Thank you. I feel blessed tonight. I've felt blessed through this entire journey. Even when it's been tough, I haven't lost sight of that. I've felt God's strength and grace every step of the way. I'm blessed to have served the state that raised me. And I look forward to continuing to be blessed to serve the state that raised me, whether it's going and voting with my mom or whether it is being with our family. We're very grateful for the good people of South Carolina. Thank you. And it's a blessing to know that across our sweet state, everyone wants to bring back the America we know and love. That's the underlying message of what happened today. I want to congratulate Donald Trump on his victory. And I want to thank the people of South Carolina for using the power of your voice. No matter the results, I love the people of our state. I love what we accomplished together, and I love how we united during our worst challenges and tragedies. I've always seen our state as a family. Families are honest with each other. They say the hard truths. That's what I've done this entire campaign. And that's what I'll do now. What I saw today was South Carolina's frustration with our country's direction. I've seen that same frustration nationwide. I share it. I feel it to my core. I couldn't be more worried about America. It seems like our country is falling apart. But here's the thing. America will come apart if we make the wrong choices. This has never been about me or my political future. We need to beat Joe Biden in November. I don't believe Donald Trump can beat Joe Biden. Nearly every day, Trump drives people away, including with his comments just yesterday. Today in South Carolina, we're getting around 40% of the vote. That's about what we got in New Hampshire, too. I'm going to count it. I know 40% is not 50%. But I also know 40% is not some tiny group. There are huge numbers of voters in our Republican primaries who are saying they want an alternative. I said earlier this week that no matter what happens in South Carolina, I would continue to run for president. I'm a woman of my word. I'm not giving up this fight when a majority of Americans disapprove of both Donald Trump and Joe Biden. South Carolina has spoken. We're the fourth state to do so. In the next 10 days, another 21 states and territories will speak. They have the right to a real choice. Not a Soviet-style election with only one candidate. And I have a duty to give them that choice. We can't afford 4 more years of Biden's failures or Trump's lack of focus. We're at $34 trillion in debt and counting. Not even a third of our 8th graders are proficient in reading. Families can't afford groceries. 9 million illegals have come to our border with enough fentanyl to kill every single American. And beyond our borders, the world is on fire. War is spreading further every day. If we aren't strong, those wars will draw America further in. And it's not just about policies. We won't get out of our downward spiral if we keep obsessing over the past. Does anyone seriously think Joe Biden or Donald Trump will unite our country to solve our problems? One of them calls his fellow Americans fascists. The other calls his fellow Americans vermin. They aren't fighting for our country's future. They're demanding we fight each other. The younger generation, my children's generation, knows it better than anyone. They deserve better. They deserve leadership. And so I will keep fighting for them and for you and for all of America. From the start of this campaign, I have made clear that I'm running for president to save America. I'm running to remind us what it means to be an American. In the America I know and love, we believe in each other. And we believe in America's inherent goodness. Now is the time to renew that belief. Now is the time to remember who we are. We're citizens of the greatest country in human history. And we must lead now more than ever before. I'm grateful to South Carolina. I always have been and I always will be. And I'm grateful that today is not the end of our story. We're headed to Michigan tomorrow. And we're headed to the Super Tuesday states throughout all of next week. We'll keep fighting for America, and we won't rest until America wins. I want to give a few thank yous because we have had some people who've really, there have been too many to thank, but I really have to single out Congressman Ralph Norman. Ralph has had pressure on him from every side that he needed to not support me and that he needed to step away from me. And he always said, there's no way in hell. I want to thank Senator Tom Davis, Representative Nathan Ballantyne, and Representative Mike Neese, who were there. We had other supporters, but they were constantly there. Tom, you've been there from the very beginning. Nathan, you'll forever be my desk mate. Mike, I won't know what to do if I don't see you at an event, but I am truly, truly grateful. Solicitors Scarlett Wilson and Duffy Stone, amazing rock stars for our state that we should all be proud of. Mayor Brenda Bethune really stepped up. The mayor of Myrtle Beach, she was absolutely fantastic. Former Congressman Gresham Barrett. You know, the story behind me and Gresham is we duked it out in our first primary when I ran for governor. And to have him call me and say, not only do I want to help you, I will do whatever you need me to do. Gresham, thank you for the prayers. Thank you for the text. Thank you for the encouragement. I am grateful for that. And everybody needs a friend like Bubba Cromer. When you have a friend who was one of the first ones to greet me when I joined the House of Representatives, and when everybody wasn't nice and they gave me a hard time, Bubba would always compliment my outfit. And to have you show up and go to every event and print thousands of letters and stuff mailboxes and do the things you didn't have to do. We all love you. Thank you. And to my women for Nikki. For Nikki chapters in every state in this country. And if you want to talk about a force, don't mess with the women in America. Thank you for the support, the encouragement, the love, everything that you've given. Thank you, South Carolina. Thank you to everybody who's been here today. Onward. Thank you. God bless you.
Okay, so there, I believe the first two were her children. It's tough to see just given this angle. But Nikki Haley is, yes, her daughter and her son.
And Bubba in the crowd.
And Bubba, and she thanked the solicitor. I want to welcome in senior fellow at the American Cornerstone Institute, Matt Whitaker, along with Rob Astorino and Dick Morris, and just get your reaction to the two speeches that we just saw. Donald Trump is up there surrounded not only by family, and this is just the people that I saw, Congressman Waltz, Gates, Senators Graham and Scott, both South Carolina senators, Congresswoman Nancy Mace, the governor of South Carolina, the lieutenant governor of South Carolina, the attorney general, and he thanks everyone. And Nikki Haley goes up there alone. We see her kids at the very end, and she thanks the solicitor and somebody named Bubba, who apparently is close to her. Rob, just your reaction to that. And now we've seen it, well, 4 times with Trump, 3 times with Nikki Haley. What do you make of that?
Well, the problem for Nikki Haley is for every one Bubba she has, Donald Trump has about 10 of them around the country. And, you know, I thought when she started that she was going to join reality and drop out, and she didn't. And I was shocked that she didn't, because at this point, she's more of the no labels candidate. That's really what she should be running for. She's got no shot at the Republican nomination. At this point, Donald Trump should completely and utterly ignore her. I said earlier, I thought she had every right from New Hampshire to tonight to run, going into her home state. She just lost by 20 points at least. There is no logical. She is running a campaign on ifs. If Donald Trump gets convicted, if Donald Trump does something catastrophic. You can't run a campaign that way. So
And
the
to-
ifs have been decided
And
now.
to your
It's over.
point, you said, Rob, this is worse than New Hampshire. She tried to say it was like New Hampshire, and then she said, well, I'm going to do the math. I know it's 40s, it's 40, not 50. The other thing that I found striking, and I think we were all sitting here for a moment going, we have to beat Joe Biden. Wait, is this a concession speech? I'm
Sounded like it
dropping
for a
out. It
moment.
almost went there. But, it is about her POV and ifs. Matthew, she says, I'm not giving up because a majority of this country disapprove with the choices. She can say that, but then we're also seeing the Republican Party ready and the voters in her home state choosing other people. So, I mean, as she says that, it's not a small minority, but it's not a big majority that are behind her, and they're not Republicans.
No, you're right. And I was able to be with President Trump today at CPAC, and, we had a chance to talk, and I think he is definitely pivoting to the general election. We're absolutely looking forward to taking on Joe Biden and contrasting that. I think Nikki Haley somehow gave a victory speech after she lost by 20 points. I mean, this is becoming sort of questionable whether she is tethered to reality, because she is not winning Republicans. In fact, if you take away the folks that voted as Democrats or independents and it's just a Republican primary, I mean, there's no doubt Republicans want Donald Trump.
Yeah, Dick, 1992, Bill Clinton came in second place in New Hampshire. Paul Tsongas beat him. I think the spread was like 8 points. And he said famously, New Hampshire, you made me the comeback kid. Nikki Haley's now done that 3 straight times. And I don't understand. There are the numbers. She's down by, 60 to 39. So that's 21 points right now. You can't be the comeback kid if you don't ever come back.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Nikki has been practicing her concession speech now through 5 contests, and she's getting good at it. And I think now that she's determined to continue it in a couple of more primaries, she'll be the expert conceder in our politics. What's very interesting, if we just step back and look at the candidacies of Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, and look at the chance they both had to really impress American voters. They had the capacity to make a real difference, to have a positive image, to maybe position themselves for vice president, and they both blew it. The one by getting in too late, and the other by staying in too late. And I think that they, under the list of missed opportunities, you have to take Haley and the governor of Georgia. Governor of Florida. I think that we have to understand that Haley's candidacy is entirely motivated by the desire to spend all the money she's raised. It's as if she recalls every phone call and every barbecue, and she's not going to drop out till her bank balance is 0.
Yeah.
Doesn't her voter balance is 0.
I don't know if that's, you know more
that.
about this stuff, Dick, than I do, but she could keep all that money and run in 2028 and be wide open. It would be a wide open field if Trump's the nominee.
There's no credibility now.
Yeah.
She's destroyed her credibility.
Okay. We're going to leave it there. Appreciate you all being with us. Matt, I like what you said. It's almost beyond parody, a little bit right now. That's Matt Whitaker, Rob Estorino, and Dick Morris joining us. Thank you.
All right, we promised you a show tonight. Nikki Haley, Donald Trump, a lot of speeches, and the show continues on now. We have our power panel ahead right here. We have Mark Halperin, Senator Rick Santorum, and Hogan Gidley joining us for more analysis. Hogan, we haven't seen you in a moment, so I'll start with you. The kids say something like you're a little bit delulu, and I think Nikki Haley just kind of sounded a little bit off tonight. It was almost as if she was close to dropping out, but then did this pivot. Do you think they were tweaking the script? It took her an hour to come out after Trump.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were doing back there, but I don't know what they've been doing this whole time for this campaign. I mean, she's 0-4. Of course she sounds a little off tonight, not to mention the fact there's a difference between being embarrassed and being humiliated. She was embarrassed in Iowa, she was embarrassed in New Hampshire, she was humiliated in Nevada with an empty box that said none of the above, and then she's now humiliated in her own home state of South Carolina. I mean, to think that she was governor of this state for 2 terms and the people here have soundly rejected her is fascinating to me. And you would think at some point you'd begin to see the fact that you're not winning any of these states. She can talk about taking on Joe Biden all she wants to, and I hate to say this for someone like Rick, but I do love the Steelers. But look, If the Steelers said, I promise you we could beat Kansas City in the Super Bowl, maybe, but you got to win games to get to the Super Bowl.
Right.
She's not winning any of these states.
Yeah, and we're in the playoffs right now. Actually, we're in the regular season right now. You got to win these games to get to. I like that analogy, Hogan. Mark, so this is the moment. She said families are honest with each other, and she laid out for a moment there was a beat. And to me, typically you don't see an hour between the candidates speaking. Trump wrapped up at about 7:30. She took the stage at 8:30, an hour later. Maybe they're in the back tweaking it. She said that, and I thought there was a moment where she might say, and it's for that reason that I've decided to suspend my campaign. No, she's in it. She's here till at least Super Tuesday. 3 doors. Is this about 2028? Is this about maybe running with Trump as his vice president, although I don't think that door is really even open? Or is this about Trump legal? Something happens with Donald Trump in one of these legal entanglements, and she's there waiting in the wings, literally.
Rob, the correct answers are A and C. I do think she's building ties to the anti-Trump wing of the party, including the donors, that she thinks if she wants to run that could be a valuable asset. And you never know in politics. Legal trouble, health trouble, something weird happens. She's trying to make the case that she would be the backup nominee. Now, MAGA doesn't like what she's done, but I don't think that's a horrible long shot under the circumstances.
Well said. One thing that I noted was the word she used, vermin, because that's something that we know mainstream big legacy media really took notice with when Trump did it, and they latched on it. Here we have a Republican here trying to say that and resurrect that as something negative to Trump again. Senator Santorum also saying this isn't Soviet style. Well, no one's really seeing that. We're seeing voters in your own state, Nikki, coming out and voting. This looks like pure democracy to me. There's a disconnect, Senator Santorum, somewhere. Maybe it is the big war chest.
Well, I really sort of frowned at the whole Soviet style. That was just that's just beyond the pale. I think Mark's answer is the correct answer. I want to tweak his answer a little bit when it comes to C, which is yes, legal problems and the like. But the reality is, she's going to, even though she's not winning, if she goes through Super Tuesday and even beyond, she's going to get delegates. She'll be the only one at that convention. If Trump stumbles or runs into a legal problem or something else happens, she's going to have leverage at that convention that no one else will have. And I think that's what her donors are thinking about. That's what she's thinking about. It's not about winning the nomination. It's about having leverage should something happen to Donald Trump between now and the convention.
It's a numbers game.
It is.
And someone can do fast math, but she's going to have to get quite a few. I mean,
it doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter. She's not going to win.
She'll still have the second most.
Yeah, if she has 5 delegates, that's still the second most. Yes, great point. And she's got, Mark, you like to call it the big momentum heading into, well, now Michigan, Idaho, and then Super Tuesday in 10 days on March the 5th. Right now, again, the numbers, they keep, they expand and then they contract until they're final. Right now, it's Donald Trump at 61%, Nikki Haley at 39%. That's a 22-point spread. Emerson had a poll this week. It said that Trump was going to beat her by 23 points. And the polls have been very good, by the way, since we've started this primary caucus process, Mark. Are we to think that we can trust the polls heading into the general now?
You can trust the good ones, not average every poll that comes out. But if you average the good ones, you're gonna be in the ballpark. And we don't have time to discuss it in full, but I think it's something of a myth that the polls have been wrong. The polls have just been
well,
read
I'm just thinking
wrong
about 2016, Mark, when they were just all wrong.
They were not. They were not wrong in 2016.
They were.
They weren't, because Hillary Clinton, the incumbent, was well below 50. Right. And if you know how to read a poll, I say respectfully, if the incumbent's below 50 and the challenger's a little bit behind, challenger's probably going to win, and he did.
Well, Mark, you sound like Nikki Haley. I go based on W and L, wins and losses, and a few polls, maybe Trafalgar and a couple others had Donald Trump
polls aren't
beating Hillary Clinton
Rob.
In 2016.
They're not.
No, I know, but they're
not predictions.
They're signal.
The polls
they're
showed,
sign points.
If you looked at this, if you looked at the series polls, they were sign points. Hillary Clinton was well below 50. Donald Trump was moving up, and got the bulk of the people who were undecided.
Can we?
The polls weren't wrong. People just read it
Mark,
wrong.
you know the point that I'm making, and you know that what you're saying was certainly not the popular narrative 8 years ago in 2016.
Popular narrative was wrong then. It's wrong now.
I want to go to one thing, although this is fascinating. This is a whole other segment. I want to see you guys a bit. Don't wake up.
It's getting a little late.
Save it for the History Channel.
She says Trump drives people away. I don't see that. You know, I see that she's appealing, obviously, to some folks. Mike Carter spoke to someone who was a Democrat there at her camp. You know, she's painting a picture. It just doesn't sound like what conservatives are aligned with after a stunning, amazing show at CPAC. Hogan, final word to you. We just have about a minute or so.
Yeah. Look, just real quickly, I've been around the state for 6 days speaking on behalf of Donald Trump on my own dime and my own time to have these conversations with voters and find out what they were thinking. I was shocked at how mad they were at her for running, and you hit on one of the reasons why. They don't like billionaire Democrats funding her. They don't like the fact that she said she would not run against Trump if he were running, and then she did. They don't like the fact she's trying to take the party back to this globalist, corporatist, elitist area circa late 90s, early 2000s, and they're just angry overall at the fact that someone like Donald Trump with a record of success in the White House is being challenged by someone who can just offer promises. It was a weird thing that I didn't expect to see on the road, but I saw it, and you're seeing the result of that tonight.
Well, a lot to digest. We'll see some of the coverage tomorrow as well, but fantastic analysis this evening. Really appreciate it. Mark Halper and Hogan Gidley, Senator Rick Santorum. What an amazing night for Donald Trump in South Carolina, and what a pretty stunning speech by Nikki Haley tonight as well. Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you all for staying up with us this Saturday. We had a great time. I don't usually get to work with you, Rob, so this was quite a good treat for me.
Yeah, it was great to work with you. I think if you're a Trump supporter, you're part of the Trump campaign, this is a very good night for the former president. Yes, Michigan and Idaho happened between now and March the 5th, but the overriding point now that Donald Trump has won in South Carolina and swept the early stage, which is remarkable, never happened before. 814 delegates are on the line on Tuesday, March the 5th. 16 states will vote. That is going to be a very big day for both candidates, particularly Nikki Haley, if she legitimately thinks she has a chance at winning the nomination.
Right, and she definitely has the war chest to continue on, and she says she doesn't have to kiss the ring. It's never been about her. It's about what she says is, you know, America, and today she said in her speech, seems like America's falling apart. I think we all agree with that. And she says if we make the wrong choice, today the choice was in South Carolina, and they made it, folks. Well, thank you. It does it for us here. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Good night, everyone.